This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily for a Thursday afternoon. Getting you ready for a monster game tonight in Dallas in the Central Division between the Winnipeg Jets and the Dallas Stars. This is the day we've had circled on our calendar for weeks. And as the stretch drive continues, the Winnipeg Jets can all but assure themselves, not officially, but pretty damn close, of a Central Division title in the 1 seed in the West with a victory tonight in regulation over the Dallas Stars. We are going to go to Dallas. Coming up first off today, we'll have Owen Newkirk from DLLS Sports. We'll get the latest on the Stars. I have to ask him about what it was like doing that show after the Vancouver game and just how the team has reacted to it, and how ready the Stars are for a game that they simply have to have if they want to keep their hopes alive of winning the Central Division and avoiding the Colorado Avalanche in the first round of the playoffs. We will also welcome in Jeff Hamilton. I know Hammer's going to have plenty of takes on the latest on the Winnipeg Jets in the National Hockey League. We'll also talk about the Blue Bombers off the field. Big year at the box office and for the organization. $7 million operating profit for the previous season announced by the Bombers. Just doing boffo business out there. Congratulations to Wade Miller and his entire squad there at the Bombers. And then we're obviously going to spend most of our time talking about the Jets. But I did want to take a trip out to Ottawa to see how people are feeling in the nation's capital with the Sens back in the playoffs. And Brent Wallace from the Coming In Hot Sens podcast will join us later on today. And we'll talk a little bit about the Sens and after last night's action, looking like the Battle of Ontario is going to be back. What a game last night between Tampa and Toronto. Nice overtime win. Just a crazy night in the National Hockey League overall. I mean, the Wild getting Eriksson Ek and Kaprizov back. Jeek with 4 goals. Kaprizov with 2 and 1, including the OT winner in an 8-7 game. And Macklin Celebrini, the rookie sensation, getting a hat trick and 2 assists as well. Very fun game to watch last night. And then, of course, a crushing blown lead by Calgary. Man, there's been a lot of blown leads lately. Up 3-1 with less than 5 minutes left. They give up 2 and 9, lose in overtime. All but eliminating them, although they do have the Minnesota Wild in their next game, in a game that they must win and must win in regulation. So, a busy night last night, but all eyes tonight, certainly for people around here, on Dallas and the Jets and Stars, and that is going to be the main topic on today's show. We will hit the Breezy Bend golf update for the Masters, which is underway right now. A lot of the top players, as we begin our program, just getting out, the likes of Rory McIlroy and John Rahm and Xander Schauffele. Can't tell you Corey Connors is the top Canadian right now, getting close to the end of his round at 2 under par. But we'll save that for later on in the program, give you a full update later on when most of the action has been played for today. Listen, just before we bring in Michael Remis, a huge thanks to the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. Of course, our partners at Coolbet, Princess Auto, Prairie Toyota Dealers, St. Vital Dental Center, Rollies Transfer, Manitoba Battery and Canadian Club, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, F Apparel, the Winnipeg Jets, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, fansfirst.ca, Little Brown Jug, Breezy Bend, of course, and we will get to a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray. How's everybody feeling in chat? Let us know. That's not the whiteout question of the day, but I am interested in the vibes going on for everyone as we get to this big game tonight. You can let us know in chat, and Michael Remis can tell him live because he joins us now on the program. And by the way, as we bring in Remis, I got to give a shout out to our buddy Aaron Forshow. Now, Aaron, Winnipeg dude, now lives down in the States. He is driving. I believe he said he's on the Oklahoma Turnpike headed to the game right now and was wondering if he should go full whiteout, including wig and the white Intercontinental belt, which he has brought in and showed off and worn as part of his outfit at Jet playoff games here. The answer to that, Aaron, is yes. Bring the white IC title, throw it on. This will feel like a playoff game, so you may as well dive into it right away. Drive safely, have a great time. Fire us some picks to @SportsTalkWPG from the game tonight. How about that, Reem? The white IC belt on a Jets fan in Dallas tonight for the big game.
Yeah, it's WrestleMania season. I saw IC title. I didn't read. I read it quickly. I was going to ask him if it was the yellow one, the Ultimate Warrior IC title, but no, it's the white one. And Jay Miller noting Macho Man rocked the white one. I think Shawn Michaels had the white one as well. Legendary title. And yes, I'm looking forward to seeing Aaron on TV. The TSN cameras usually catch the away fans
for sure.
So we'll have to keep our eye out. If you see a guy with a white Intercontinental title belt and a wig, it's Aaron. So I think whiteout season has parties getting started a couple games early. I think you can pull the whites out now. They had the official kickoff party and press conference earlier this week announcing the parties. And if you missed it yesterday, Kevin Donnelly was on detailing all the festivities to come around True North Square and Canada Life Center. So this is exciting, and it feels kind of like a playoff game. Reminds me of those late season games in the NFL where it's like winner take all for the division, like we had with Vikings, Lions earlier this year.
Yeah.
But it's Stars, Jets. The Jets, the magic number is 5. So, you go down to 1 if the Jets were to win. That's points gained by the Jets and points lost by the Stars. So all but clinch. We were on Money Puck at the end of the show yesterday. Their chances, if they won in regulation, would be like 99% for first in the division. And how big would that be? But I don't know who the opponent would be, Hustler, because Minnesota appears to be very back, as you mentioned, with the big
offensively. Might want to tighten it up in their own end a little bit. I watched that game last night. It was a circus. It was a lot of fun to watch. 15 goals, sign me up for that.
Yeah, the 8-7 win, and Joel Eriksson-Ek with 4 in his return. Kaprizov returning as well. So big boost. And, look at the second wild card, Huss. They are tied in points. However, Minnesota has a game in hand. So could it be Jets Blues, or will it be Jets Well? We'll have to wait and see. But there are, 3 and 2 games back for those teams. The Jets have 4 games, and so do the Stars left, and the Jets have a 4-point lead for the West and the Central.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I was guilty of it too after last night's game. I'm sitting there going, wait a second, maybe this is going to be St. Louis. But again, before we worry about who the 8 seed is, lock down the 1 seed. And that's what tonight is all about in Dallas. If the Jets get this win tonight, while it won't be official, we can talk tomorrow about, okay, it was a better matchup, what's more likely to happen, and go through all of that. But there still is work to be done. Scott Arniel will be the first one to tell you that, focusing on their own business. And Remis, I can't think of a better way to prepare for the playoffs than going on the road to play a team like the Dallas Stars with the stakes being what they are tonight. I mean, sure, if the Jets don't win, they'll still have a better chance than the Stars to win the division. But I think they would love to get this done themselves tonight, to then just need 1 point against the Chicago Blackhawks to officially book it. And then, give yourself some options when it comes to potentially resting a few players, trying some new things, getting a couple guys into the lineup that haven't been yet, and being rested and maxed out at 100% for when the puck drops on game number 1 likely the 19th or 20th of April here in Winnipeg. It's pretty simple. They don't need to worry about the scoreboard. They don't need to do much else other than go in, play a game like they did on a Monday night, which, funny enough, was the exact opposite of what I watched in that Minnesota-San Jose game last night. And, lock it down. And it does look like they're going to get some reinforcements back for this big game tonight, Reem. Neil Pionk skating with Dylan Sandberg today. It looks like he'll be back in his regular spot, adding to the blue line. And fingers crossed for Nikolai Ehlers, who has been sort of a game-time decision for the last 2 games and has not played, but was out there in the warm-up this morning with Vlad and Perfetti on line 2. But it should be noted that Gus, who would be the scratch if Ehlers plays, did come off with the main group and didn't stay out for extra work. So he is certainly on standby for today's game, depending on the status of Nikolai Ehlers. But although I don't want to say anything about Ehlers because I've been pretty optimistic and I've expected him, certainly in the last game, and he hasn't played. So I will wait to say Ehlers is in until I see him out on the ice tonight in the starting lineup or on the bench when the game begins.
Yeah, Ehlers' game time decision. Neil Pionk, it sounded yesterday like he was going to be in. They asked him, said it was up to Arniel, so it sounded like he was healthy and ready to go. And as far as, the implications, we can pull up the money puck here, Huss. Fairly big game for the Jets. 99.9% chance of finishing first in the division if they win in regulation. But even if they win in overtime, it's 99.3%. So, saving credit to the NHL schedule makers for saving this one for the end of the year. And, they played great on Tuesday. Can they continue? The home team has won every meeting in this matchup this year with Jets and Dallas. The Jets have won 2. The Stars have won one of those games. Interestingly enough, the Jets penalty kill, we've talked about how good it's been since the Four Nations break. 10 for 10 this year versus Dallas. Now, Dallas, a bit of a different looking power play with Mikko Rantanen in the lineup, but interestingly enough, that the home team has won every game. We'll see if that streak continues. And I was actually surprised the Jets have had a pretty good record in the last couple here against the Stars. However, in Dallas in the last 11, 2, 6, and 3, but they've won 2 of the last 4 in Dallas. So I think you can it's fun to look at historical stuff, Huss, but throw it all out. It's one game. I don't want to say winner take all for the division, but it would put the Jets
pretty damn close. For at least for the Jets.
At least for the Jets, yeah. For the
if they wake up tomorrow morning having lost this, listen, with the win that they had on Monday and what's happened with Dallas, they would still be 2 points up. But having to take care of business and making sure that they get the requisite wins that they're going to need to ice down the championship and give them a little bit of wiggle room as it comes to playing guys and preparing as they would like with the freedom of knowing that they have clinched the division. So a big one tonight. Both of the games here, Reem, have been great performances by Winnipeg. I think back to the early game, which was the doubleheader game where it was Jets Stars and then the Bombers in the West Final. What an incredible day of sports that was here in Winnipeg. And if I recall correctly, that was a 4-0 game. And then Dallas ruined a shutout late, I believe, on a power play goal. And the game ended up 4-1. And then, the other game, we talked a lot about it. Statement game, all the cliches, was the one more recently where the Jets, similar to what they did to St. Louis yesterday, really shut down the Stars and had one of their best performances of the year, which I think was another real shot of optimism for the fan base as to how this team can perform in the high leverage situations against top NHL teams.
Yeah, we've seen the Jets when they play the top teams, like Dallas, as you mentioned, at home, the 2 games this year. Florida won the St. Louis game dominant. They've had dominant performances against Colorado as well. And you look at that game back in November, 4-1. But I'm looking more at the one that was just a couple weeks ago that was so anticipated. Has Friday night, sold out, Canada Life Center, which has really kind of been the string of this, these sellouts for the Jets and, the fan excitement building as we get towards the playoffs. When they won that game 4-1 on March 14, I think if you weren't necessarily on the Jets bandwagon, you were maybe waiting for some type of fall off when it's a big game like that. And, Mark Scheifele has 3 assists and Hellebuck is shutting the door. You're saying, hey, you know what, this team, they've been in first place all season. There's no reason why this type of play can't continue. And I think that was a bit of a statement game because, I remember them playing some games against Dallas past years where, had a chance to take a big lead or something. And, Dallas would just seemingly always find a way, but not this year. It's been pretty incredible as the Jets been in first place every day since January 14. And what a run it would be if they can take it wire to wire here first in the West.
Yeah, and I mean, the lone loss of the Jets season, which was to Dallas, in Dallas, was December 1st. And that was at the end, or frankly, right in the middle of that insane stretch of games where really it was the only period where I think they had a 10-game segment that was below 500. And, a very tight game. If I recall, Adam Lowry scored, and then, it was a 1-1 game in the third period. Mason Marchman scored to make it 2-1, and it was an empty netter. So very tight game. The games in Winnipeg, not so much. So the Jets have had success against this team. They hope to get some reinforcements back with Neil Pionk and Nikolai Ehlers in the lineup tonight. And we'll see if they can pull it off and make Friday on Winnipeg Sports Talk and in this city that much better. This is the way things look coming out of the morning skate. Assuming Nikolai Ehlers can play, he'll be in with Vlad and Perfetti, Connor Scheifele, Iafallo, Nino, Lowry, Appleton, and Tanev, Barron, and Jared Anderson-Dolan. Gus is the extra. If he is out, we will see Nino Niederreiter move up with Nemestikov and Perfetti like we did last game. Tanev will play with Lowry, I'd imagine. And then you'll have Gus roll in with Barron and Jared Anderson-Dolan. That line was great on Monday, but I know they'd like to have the offensive power of Ehlers in the lineup tonight. As far as the blue line goes, Morrissey DeMello, a returning Neil Pionk expected with Dylan Sandberg. And this is the first time we're going to see Luke Schenn with Logan Stanley. And it is interesting, and I know there's plenty of takes on this. Listen, these are two of the slower defensemen in the league. When they first had the full complement of defense, they went with Hayden Fleury with Luke Schenn. And it sort of felt like if Schenn was the right side defenseman, it would be Fleury. And if there was somebody on the right side that was out, which obviously happened with Neil Pionk being out, Colin Miller would be on the right side with Stan. I understand there's some question marks about this. I won't lose my mind about it until we actually see how it looks tonight. And I'll tell you, the entire blue line played marvelously on Monday night. Now, obviously, there'll be a different pairing. It'll be interesting to see how that pairing moves the puck and how much they actually play together. I mean, considering the importance of this game, don't be surprised if a guy like Josh Morrissey and Dylan Sandberg, for that matter, play some additional minutes, maybe with Luke Schenn, sheltering or maybe minimizing what Stan is out there for. But, hey, the team's coming off one of their best performances of the season in a high-leverage game, and they should be getting Neil Pionk and hopefully Nikolai Ehlers back tonight. So all that's left to do is talk about it for a couple hours, Remis, and then drop the puck and see whether they can get the job done.
Yeah, a lot of anticipation for this one. We've been talking about this game for weeks. It's finally here, and playoffs approaching around the corner. And yeah, if you look at the NHL Edge stats, Stan and Schenn among the slower players in terms of top speed achieved this year in the league. We will see how this pairing works out. It was interesting to note that, when they started off when Schenn was first acquired, it was him and Hayden Fleury. And Hayden Fleury has had a couple solid games the last few while they've been dealing with a couple injuries there with Schenn out or Pionk as well. But I do imagine Morrissey, DeMello, they played 25 minutes last game. I'm sure it'll be up there. Sandberg as well. And we'll see what happens. A lot of it could determine special teams if will that be a factor as well? How will this game be officiated. I'm going to try not to lose my mind as we approach the playoffs at the selectiveness of some of the calls that happen, but that's just part of playoff hockey, apparently. So, look, Luke Sheney's come in. I think he's brought an element that the Jets haven't really had in terms of his physical play. You know, you don't want to go in the corners with him. He blocks shots as well, plays penalty kill, and can also make a nice first pass. So, hey, it'll be great to have Pionk and Samberg, the Hermantown connection back, and we got the Twin Towers back there with the Stan Shen pairing. We'll keep our eye out.
That is the Twin Towers. We weren't sure whether we were going to see it. I mean, I get them trying it. I will admit I'm a little surprised that they're trying it tonight in this game. But tell you what, they've obviously got a lot of confidence in these guys. They are where they are in the standings for a reason. Everyone's been a part of it. So we'll see what happens tonight. And hopefully we won't come in tomorrow with everyone freaking out about the third pairing. But as I say, we're going to hear from Scott Arniel coming up and Adam Lowry as well from the Winnipeg Jets. We'll dive into a little bit more on what the story is in Denver or Dallas, I should say, in just a couple minutes. But quickly, let's get a little bit of Scott Arniel here before Owen Newkirk joins us. Here's Arnie post-morning skate on the big one tonight in Dallas for his Winnipeg Jets.
Like any good team, they're going to put that behind them. Like you said, they played a good hockey game. You know, things happen at the end, but Pete will have them rallied back up and going, and everybody knows how big of a game this is tonight, and don't expect anything different. They, they're has been in our rearview mirror all year long. They're one of the best teams in the West. I've said that all year, and if not the league. And you know what? We have to be at our best to get 2 points.
All right, so there's Scott Arniel. Now, as Michael mentioned, PK's been really good head-to-head against Dallas this year, 10 for 10, certainly trending in a positive direction. Here's what Arnie had to say about the PK recently and the importance of penalty killing moving forward.
Yeah, for me, compared to the first half, there was a lot of learning, kind of learning on the fly, just because you didn't have much practice time to do that, and you don't always have specific times to work on your PK. You work on your power play a lot more, and it just seems like guys are a lot more comfortable. They just they're not thinking, they're reacting. They have a real good idea where they need to be, and it's certainly a lot more aggressive than what we were last year. So there has been lots of change for everybody, but guys have grasped it, and like you mentioned, been real good in this second half, and it's vital as we moved into the later parts of the year, going into the playoffs. Your specialty teams have to be good.
All right, so Scott Arniel just on the PK now. The fourth line I thought was just awesome on Monday night. And, of course, that was with Gus back in. What's interesting, though, is that Gus is going to be out if Ehlers is in tonight, which means they've really liked what they've seen from Jared Anderson-Dolan. The guy with the acronym JAD was a topic as well at the morning skate. Here's what Arnie had to say about one of the newest Jets coming up from the Moose and getting into the lineup.
Yeah, we obviously broke his foot out coming out of training camp. There was probably a couple opportunities early in the year where we could have maybe called him up. I think we went with the kids one time, and then obviously it just is a scenario it never really worked out for us to get him up, and I'm glad at the end of the year here that we've talked about making sure that we see what we have for depth, and we wanted to throw him in here, not just for one game. We wanted to get him in and kind of get him playing here with us, and I liked a lot of what I see. He's got energy, he's detailed, knows how to play without the puck, which is important. Gives us energy on that fourth line, and that's what we've been asking, and that's what he's been giving us.
And speaking of that fourth line, which looks to be JAD with Tanev and Morgan Barron in the middle. Of course, Morgan Barron scoring that monster goal, and that line for a lot of shifts was just simply living in the St. Louis end. Here's what Arnie had to say about the recent play of line 4.
The sign of all good teams when you have four lines that can roll, but when your fourth line create energy and zone time, and whether it's being physical or doing the right things out there, being a part of one of your specialty teams, whether that's power play or penalty kill. You look at teams that have had success in the playoffs, and it's it's those fourth lines, third and fourth lines that step up, and because the limelight is on the top star players, and it's those sort of role players that step up and they've been doing a good job all year long, and that's the idea, is that when we get to the playoffs, that it's 4 lines that do the right thing, shift in, shift out.
All right, so there's the coach. We'll hear from Captain Adam Lowry coming up before Hammer comes on. But we're going to go to Dallas in just a moment. We'll do our full Masters update for Breezy Bend later on, but I will quickly tell you some good news for Canadian golf fans. Corey Connors just birdied 17 and 18. He is in the clubhouse as the leader at Augusta National at 4 under par. Tyrrell Hatton and Justin Rose also at 4 under, out on the course still, 1 shot ahead of Scotty Scheffler. Full update on that towards the end of the program as play continues this afternoon at Augusta National. All right, hey, if you're moving this summer, gang, why don't you hit up our great sponsors and partners over at Rolly's Transfer to help you do it. They've been family owned and operated in Winnipeg for over 60 years. And are the most trusted name simply in moving here in Manitoba. Hit up their website, top right corner, you'll see request an estimate. Put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies. And then let them know when you're planning on moving, where you're going to, and what needs to go. And the friendly staff at Rolly's will turn it around quickly with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove service that they are famous for. For your next move, make it Rolly's, proud sponsors of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Find out more, request an estimate over at Rollies.com. Spring is here. Lots of spring cleaning happening around at your place. What about your teeth? Have you been to the dentist lately? If it's been a minute, why don't you go see our pal Dr. Terry and his wonderful team at St. Vital Dental Center at 167 St. Anne's. Convenient location, free parking right behind the building as well, and a full array of dental services for your entire family as they've been serving Winnipeggers and Manitobans for generations. For all your dental needs, St. Vital Dental Center is there for you. 167 St. Anne's, and find out more online. Book an appointment as well at stvitaldental.ca. Well, we'll see what happens tonight. If the Jets can get a win, I think there'll be some pretty darn happy fans in bars around this city giving a cheers. And hey, we're keeping it Canadian right now. When you're thinking Canadian whiskey, make it the original. Since 1848, Canadian Club, the official spirit of Winnipeg Sports Talk, and of course your Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Now it'll be a minute before we're back at Princess Auto Stadium enjoying those CC and Gingers while watching the blue and gold. But right now, when you're getting ready for tonight's game or a big weekend coming up, pop by your local Manitoba liquor marts and keep your eyes out for Canadian Club 100% rye, and Canadian Club Classic at your local Manitoba liquor marts. And just before we get to Dallas, shout out to Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery, your local option for batteries for literally everything, where you'll be shopping local, you'll get the best prices in town, and the best customer service as well. We already know that Donnie and the gang are beating the pants off the big box stores with their pricing. They're conveniently located on Logan Avenue and their new spot on Dovercourt Drive. But hey, we know you're busy, and whether it's for your car, your truck, your boat, an ATV you want to get ready for this season, just holler at them or order online at manitobabattery.com, and they'll deliver those batteries to you for free anywhere inside the perimeter with any purchase over $60. It's just that easy. Shop local, save money, and get the best in batteries at the best price. Manitoba Battery. Shop online today at manitobabattery.com. All right, we have got a lot to get to with our next guest from DLLS Sports. Owen Newkirk joins us ahead of a game that we have had circled on our calendar for weeks. Owen, what's going on? Great to have you on the program.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here. And I'll tell you what, I don't know what the temperature is in Winnipeg right now, but it is absolutely stunning in Dallas. We love it when it's this time of year. It's going to be unbearably hot soon enough, but it's idyllic right now. So if nothing else, we're happy about the sunshine because tonight's kind of a big game.
Well, tonight's kind of a huge game. And listen, I mean, we've been doing a lot of scoreboard watching here in the Peg for the last month or so. And to be honest, I mean, up until the weekend, it was like, are these guys ever going to lose? And the funny thing is, watching the games, I mean, there were a few games in there, the Calgary one especially, where you're like, I mean, this team is getting outshot 2-1 or 3-1 and still finding ways to win. And it seemed like, maybe thanks to Sidney Crosby, the luck sort of ran out. I mean, what do you make? Like, we'll get to the Vancouver game in a second. That's a chapter all on its own. But has the team come off of it a little bit, or was this sort of bound to happen the way that they were playing over the course of the last few weeks?
I feel like we're staring at the mirror and Winnipeg is standing back, and we're seeing almost the same things and different ways. But if you're watching the Dallas Stars scoreboard going, God, they're not losing. What is going on? They just keep piling up points. Likewise, the Winnipeg Jets don't lose. And the Stars had the best record in the NHL, I think, from about the end of the holiday break until January. And the Winnipeg Jets had the second best record in the NHL. And they made up 2 points on the Jets during that time frame. Now, as you know very well, Winnipeg had an unbelievable record start to the season and took a huge lead because of that 15-1-0 start, which was unbelievable. But then they rattled off an 11-game franchise record win streak as well. So throughout the course of the season, Stars fans have been waiting to see the Jets fall off the pace or at least come back down to earth. And they haven't. And the crazy thing is, this weekend, the fact that the Stars are winless in 3 is their longest winless streak of the season. It's the first time this year that they haven't won a game when they've played in a segment of 3, which is crazy, right? Then I looked at Winnipeg. They have 3. They have a 4-game losing streak and 2 3-game winless where they went 0-1-2 or 0-2-1, something like that. These teams just don't lose. Our old head coach from, let's see, it was 2017, so it was probably 3 or 4 coaches ago now for the Stars, because we've been through a few in my decade plus here in Dallas, and it was Ken Hitchcock, and he said it's not about when you fall into the ditch, it's how quickly you get yourself out of said ditch. And he was right, because under Pete DeBoer, the Stars have not, in 3 regular seasons now, lost 3 in a row in regulation, and that is a pretty impressive feat. But you're right, every time the Stars do well, we look over and the Jets won again. Oh, hey, you're playing in Vegas the other night. We can make up some points on them. And then Vegas doesn't help us out at all. So I feel like we're staring in the same reflection in that regard. And here we are going down to the end, hoping that one team slips up and the other one doesn't.
Well, it's funny you say that, because, I mean, many of us were out Saturday afternoon. We're watching that Pittsburgh-Dallas game, and the comeback happens, and the Stars lose in regulation. And you're like, okay, this is the opportunity the Jets have been waiting for, and they went out with their worst 40 minutes in a long time and got whooped by the Utah Hockey Club. That being said, they got themselves out of the ditch with one of their best performances of the year against the red-hot St. Louis Blues, who were on a 12-game heater going into that game. And I'll be honest, I thought the Stars had gotten themselves out of that ditch for 59 minutes against the Vancouver Canucks. By the way, if you want more Stars coverage, Owen and the gang, Cred Ludwig on the program, do a great job. I was so interested to see what the reaction was of that game. I had to go onto YouTube after the fact and see what was going on. That was probably a game or a post-game show that no one expected. Well, frankly, it had never happened in NHL history. I mean, what do you make of what happened? And fill us in on the aftermath around the team of a lost point in one of the more bizarre circumstances that this team will have all year.
Well, Andrew, I think that believe it or not, the loss to Pittsburgh hurts more than the loss against the Canucks. In even the NHL historical record of never having a team come back from 3 goals down to win in the final minute of regulation or later. And it was a couple of minutes, because I think the previous record was held by Montreal and it was 57 or 56, something like that. The post-game show fans were on the ledge. We had to talk a few people off that. We got a lot of super chats on our YouTube broadcast, and basically it was the entire back half of our show, which is normal. And then we went 40 extra minutes because they kept piling in. That's the fan reaction. The team reaction is completely different, and it might surprise you, but they actually feel they played a pretty good hockey game until the third period. The first 40 minutes, really, I thought that they were in complete control against the Canucks. The Canucks, looked like a team that was playing out the string. Now, technically, they were still mathematically alive, but they looked like a team that was here to play hard, professional, giving a good effort, but that little extra edge just wasn't there. And they were missing a couple injury guys as well. But then they get a power play goal right. It was a carryover penalty from the second period, and they get one right at the start of the third, and that sort of flipped it a bit. But Dallas still, after giving up 2 goals, opened up a 5-2 lead. Our producer was already creating his YouTube thumbnail. He had we had the full idea of what we were going to lead with. And then, that was with 4 or 5 minutes left. And then that happened, and you just went, wow, I can't believe it. But the thing is that, as you know very well, it's all about how you lose in the NHL. And so even though that was a gut-wrenching, soul-crushing defeat, they got a point. They lost in Minnesota. They had a lead. Minnesota came back, but they got a point. So now all of a sudden you got 2 more points than you otherwise would have, and the division is still there to be had because of it. And so I always hate that. The 3-point games drive me bonkers. I would go on a rant for a half an hour. I don't want to eat up all of your show.
You're preaching to the choir, dude. The fact that some games are worth 2 and others are worth 3 is the most insane thing in pro sports.
And here's the really foolish thing. General managers will never vote to change it because the visual perception of the standings make it look like you're closer. The irony of the whole thing is, if you allowed for the 3-2-1 system, which we saw at the Four Nations, if you had 3 points for a regulation win, 2 for an overtime or shootout, and 1 for an overtime or shootout loss, you could actually make up more ground faster. And so even though if it looked like you were farther behind in the standings, you're actually mathematically closer to getting into it. And, we talk about this tight race between the Stars and Jets. 4 points would be nothing if you had a 3-2-1 system. But here we are. It's we also are playing in divisional playoff format, which I don't like either, but is the system we have to deal with.
Listen, I love you said that. I have said this over the course of the last 12 years. I've brought this up with Gary Bettman at least 3 times, and he never wants to talk to me about it.
I'm sure he loves that line of
I get Bill
questioning.
Daly. I'm like, Bill, can we work on Gary a little bit? This is insane. And but that is the hill I will die on. It makes absolutely no sense. And to your point, before we kind of get back to Winnipeg and Dallas, think about some of these games between, like, for instance, like if a Calgary, like last week or the last couple of weeks, Calgary's playing the Islanders. Like these games, you almost know there's a good chance they're going to go to OT. Because both teams, like what you can't do is lose in regulation. If you get your point, you don't get the extra one, it's not going to kill you like the regulation loss. Like the last 5 minutes in some of these games is like, just don't do anything stupid. Like the entertainment value of the game is sapped out of it as well. So, I mean, it's the biggest no-brainer.
For it. I completely agree. The Penguins game was like that, and you almost got the sense that Dallas, with Pittsburgh already eliminated, was going, hey, it doesn't matter if we give them a point. Let's make sure we get one, and then we'll go get another one. And then, obviously they lost, and that was tragic from a Stars perspective. But you're right. A lot of times you see the last 5 minutes of a game, teams turning into prevent defense. They're playing not to lose rather than try to win the game. Whereas if 3 points were that, if that was on the line, you would see teams really starting to go for it. You might even see, late in the season, a team pull their goalie tied just because that third point is so much more important and valuable.
Well, let me ask you this just on that topic, because Brandon Rowicki was on with us yesterday, and we were talking about the importance of this game and, the fact that it's 4 points and not 2 for Winnipeg. If this game is tied in the last 2 minutes of the game, does Pete DeBoer pull his goalie? I mean, they really have to win this game in regulation.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Probably not, because I don't think they view it as the end all of existence, right? They want to win the division. They want to catch Winnipeg, but to the point of throwing the kitchen sink at it. And that goes to a point we were talking about on our show the other day, which is, you want to do everything you can. I think everybody wants to avoid the Colorado Avalanche in the first round.
Speaking of divisional playoff
right?
formats.
And that's why. If this was if let's say you give the division winners first and second in the West, and then you do 3 through 8 as the best overall, that would be better. But I don't think the Dallas Stars feel that winning the division and conference because of it, and maybe even the President's Trophy, is worth at all costs, meaning overextending your top guys. You know, DeBoer likes to roll his 4 lines anyway, so he doesn't tend to overuse them in the beginning. But if you really had to win, let's say you were in a do or die game, whether it's the regular season or into the playoffs, you know, a coach will shorten his bench. He'll ride the heavy minutes players even more than usual. The more important thing for this Dallas Stars team, and I think probably for the Jets as well, although you guys are in the pole position, so you probably want to hang on to it, is getting to game 83 healthy and playing your best hockey, more so than first versus second. So I as much as it's a fun thought exercise, I don't think so.
See, I mean, we kind of dove into some of the numbers and what the percentage is. Like, even if Dallas won and Winnipeg got a point, I mean, and it wouldn't guarantee it. But it's pretty damn close. And I mean, really, this game is all about the Central Division and the 1 seed. And I don't think this game has anywhere near the importance of it that it does if we don't have the Avalanche, who are like 5th or 6th in the NHL, but 3rd in our division, waiting for you in the next round.
Well, let me ask you a question, Andrew, on that, because this is something we've talked about regularly as well. Let's say the Jets do win the Central Division and thus the number 1 seed in the West. You will play either the St. Louis Blues or the Minnesota Wild. Would you? Obviously, I'm in agreement. I would pick one of those over Colorado every single day.
Yeah, in a second.
But in your mind, is either one of those teams easy, especially knowing that Kaprizov and Eriksson Ek just recovered?
Not even close. Not even close. Like, anyone that expects the team that wins the Central Division to just walk over their first round opponent is sorely mistaken. I mean, anyone that watched that circus in St. Paul last night between the Sharks and Wild.
Defense optional?
Yeah, like, listen, John Hines, I don't think is going to be breaking down a lot of the defensive video for that game, or maybe he will be saying, don't do this again. But I mean, that's just simply a different team with Jeek and Eriksson Ek back, and Kaprizov back.
Well, he's my MVP candidate if he played most of the season, right? To me, I'd pick Kaprizov for the Hart if he qualified. He didn't play enough games.
He was the clubhouse leader. I mean, through 35 games.
To me, there was no doubt, and you can see how important he is to that Minnesota Wild team. I think next year, when they don't have that dead cap money from Suter and Parise, Billy Guerin is going to be able to weaponize that, and they're going to be even tougher. But without Kaprizov, they're just a shell of themselves, and that connection between Zuccarello and Kaprizov, especially on their power play, it's fun to watch. But usually not when they're playing the Dallas Stars. Yeah,
well, and you know what? It's funny. I mean, we had been talking, a lot about, not taking anything for granted about, okay, what are the possible playoff matchups? And listen, a Winnipeg, Minnesota, I think would be very popular. The two teams absolutely hate each other. I mean, Winnipeg fans and Minnesota fans, they're all very nice, and we're friendly Manitoba, and there's Minnesota nice until those teams play each other.
We've experienced both.
And then the other thing is, it's the one series where fans could just load up into the whip and, drive for 7 hours and you're at the game. So I think it would be great from a fan standpoint. But I'll tell you what, I watched that game last night and then thought of what Winnipeg did to St. Louis on Monday and went, maybe the Blues aren't such a bad matchup after all. And now Minnesota's got 3 games left. St. Louis has 2 games left after blowing that point late. So, I mean, I think St. Louis very well could be the 8th seed right now. And obviously they've cooled off in the last 2 games, but that's still a team that has been one of the best in the NHL in the back half of the season.
And they both have goalies that can really steal them a game. Like, Gustafson's had a great season. I do think the workload is starting to catch up with him a little bit. So we'll see if he can maintain that in the playoffs. Binnington is the perfect villain in the NHL. And if he's not on your team, you hate him. But boy, you need guys like that in the league. It sells tickets, it's drama. And as a U.S. fan, obviously, I'm from Maine originally, but I've been in Texas for a decade. Doesn't matter. I'd still be cheering for the U.S. and Maine. But Binnington tore out the hearts of the U.S. faithful in that Four Nations final, and he's gotten it done. He beat the Stars as their impromptu run to the Cup in 2019. You can't totally count him out. So I don't know if you had to put my feet to the fire and say, you win the division, who do you want to play? I could see positives and negatives to both the Blues and the Wild. I kind of think because of how unbelievably red hot St. Louis has been, I'd pick Minnesota. Even though with Kaprizov, that's a big difference. However, Stars have beat Minnesota in the playoffs the last couple of times they've met, and the Minnesota Wild fans cannot stand Stars fans because they still blame us for losing their NHL franchise the first time around, even though Norm Green doesn't own the team anymore, and it's been long enough, and turn the page, guys. And you're right. Couldn't be the nicer people outside, but when you get anywhere near, you hear a lot of angry Dallas stuff when you're up at XL Energy Center.
Oh, I can imagine. And listen, you mentioned Binnington. I mean, I was lucky enough to be in Boston at all those games, and I had to suspend. Like, if you asked us in Winnipeg Sports Talk, I mean, the list of villains for the Jets. I mean, Binnington would absolutely be on that power poll. We had to suspend all hostilities towards Mr. Binnington. He came up so big in the playoff. I mean, in that overtime, I still cannot believe that. But the thing with Binnington is that he is a hothead and can completely get lost. And I don't know if you watched the Oiler game last night, but guess who's there giving him a shot? Corey Perry.
Of course he is.
Binnington's not taking anything. He's whacking him in the back. And, like, listen,
that happened when Perry was in Dallas too. A lot. Yeah. Oh, we loved it.
It's a long-standing rivalry, but he can get off his game, and obviously gave up a big goal late in the game that would cost him a very, very valuable point. So, I mean,
weird for you guys in Winnipeg to have to deal with both sides of that. You have the villain all the time, but then you have to cheer for him with Canada.
It was
crazy. And then your guy who you ride or die with all season, now he's playing for the bad guys on the other side of the U.S.-Canada border with Hellebuck. That's a very interesting position for you guys to be in.
It was an absolutely bizarre situation. Yeah. I will tell you that. And as soon as that game was over and we had a good time that night, it was back to being a Helly guy, and the Binnington beat it, get back to St. Louis, and maybe we'll see you in the playoffs.
Well, I tell you, it was hard not to cheer for Thomas Harley, and then he's beating us, so it happens.
What a stud he is. I mean, he came... I don't think many Canadian fans were familiar with him at all, and the circumstances of which he joined the team, and can he skate, can he not skate, and then goes in. And, of course, one of the interesting stories coming out of Four Nations, and Scott Arniel spoke about this, I believe, yesterday or maybe the day before. There's a good bit in the latest 32 Thoughts, a lot of Jets content, and Elliot Friedman was writing this. When you look at the Four Nations for Winnipeg, we could look back at that as being something that was incredibly positive for the team going through the rest of the season. Hellebuck playing very well, coming just short. I mean, being motivated to get over the hump and to get that win. Kyle Connor benched for the last game, which was one of the stupidest things. I mean, you're bringing out Kreider to play 6 minutes. Tkachuk is hurt. They basically ran 9 forwards through a game that went into overtime, and Kyle Connor's a guy that can change a game like that.
Well, I could spend a half an hour talking about why they shouldn't have played Tkachuk, even dressed him in that game, because they knew he was hurt.
For sure. I mean,
they wasted a roster spot.
It was a dumb decision. Yeah. You had a 40-goal guy sitting up in the press box. And then on the Canadian side of things, Josh Morrissey plays great. He gets brutally sick, can't play in the last game. And then maybe the biggest one of all, Mark Scheifele not making the team with the season that he's having. He's been so motivated all year, I think, to prove everyone wrong and be on that Olympic team next year. So I think everybody, at least from a Jets side of things, including Mark that wasn't there, came out of it with some unfinished business. And, to their credit, they've been committed and consistent all year long. And that's why they have the opportunity that they do going into a very difficult place to win against one of the best teams in the league in the Dallas Stars.
It's funny. We have very similar, the storylines parallel both of these clubs all year, because Harley had a breakout internationally, of course, and for a lot of teams that don't know Harley, at least fans that don't know Harley, the teams do. But we in Dallas know very well what he's capable of. He's unflappable. he has a lot of confidence in himself, and it's not bad arrogance. We call it athletic arrogance. It's really good poise, and he has never met a stage that he doesn't feel he can compete and perform on, which is a really good thing to have, especially in a professional athlete. But then, to me, one of the takeaways I had from the Four Nations was Mikael Granlund really showed well for Finland. And Finland didn't have a great tournament. Roope Hintz didn't play particularly well. I don't think Mikko Rantanen did, although I kind of give Rantanen a pass because of all the things off the ice that he was dealing with. You know, this shock trade to Carolina and just being completely stunned to the soul that he was no longer a Colorado Avalanche. But Granlund in the toughest stage looked fantastic. And Andrew, I've sort of made that comparison to the playoffs in the Stanley Cup run now. Is those are kind of like that. You know, obviously the Four Nations games, it's some of the best hockey I've ever seen. And I've watched international tournaments dating back years and years and years. I remember, 94, 95, the World Cup that U.S. surprised everybody. And then the really awful 98 performance in Japan from a U.S. perspective. But I don't know if I've seen faster paced hockey ever. I think it was maybe some of the best we've ever seen. And Granlund game translated so well. So at the deadline, when the Stars got him, you go, oh, I know he's good now, but what he will be able to do when the ice is as tight as it gets, the space just disappears, the speed and intensity it ratchets up. And you see that. And you see Harley do that and go, wow, I really like that. So that was a really encouraging thing for me for the Stars, because one of the trade deadline acquisitions, forget Mikko Rantanen, but Granlund looking that good at that stage, you go, okay, he can do it when it's the hardest.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Jim Doe's been busy this year. Maybe not quite to the Chris McFarland extent down in Colorado with what they've done and how they've completely changed their team. But they did make some significant adds. I mean, Rantanen obviously is the one that grabs all the headlines. But you mentioned Granlund, and he seems to have really fit in quite well. And listen, right now, I mean, you look at Cody Ceci playing top 4 minutes as long as Miro Heiskanen's not there. It's another guy that they're really leaning on. Just quickly on Heiskanen in particular, Tyler Seguin. I mean, what's the latest on those players? Not necessarily for the regular season, but for the first round of the playoffs, regardless of who Dallas plays.
Well, I'm sure Pete DeBoer is sick of us asking him pretty much every single day. And so I feel like we take turns. Okay, we're going to ask about Tyler today. We'll wait and let's not ask him about Miro today, because it's not going to change. So it's every few days or something. Today, he offered it himself. Maybe it was because, you have Winnipeg in town. So you have a new group again, and we'll give you a few more things. But Seguin is really close. He has done everything other than basically full contact drills by battling in corners and having players take runs at him. Nobody coming off an injury is going to get on the ice and let one of his teammates just barrel him into the boards over and over again, because that's not what they mean by full contact. They're not going to send out and just see if they can bruise him up a bit. But honestly, I think based on when they say he's knocking on the door, I have two theories. My original theory is he's going to play against Detroit on Monday, which is the Stars have 2 more home games tonight against the Jets, then against Utah on Saturday. And then they finish up the regular season with road games at Detroit and Nashville. And that's Monday, Wednesday of next week. I think that because they have to activate him from LTIR and they have to make one corresponding move, that if Dallas beats the Jets tonight and first place is still in play, we won't see Tyler until next week, because Liam Bichsel would have to be sent down to make room, because he's the only eligible player unless they want to put somebody on waivers. And what's to say the Avalanche going to go, oh, you're extra defenseman, you're putting him on waivers. We'll take him. And now you're in trouble for the playoffs. Not that they'd necessarily do that, but, gamesmanship, you never know.
I mean, listen, a team like the Jets with cap space, they might just on principle. I mean,
why not?
You can't expose yourself to that at this time of the year.
Especially when injuries are going to pile up and you're going to need that depth. So Bischel's the only one they could send down. So they don't even need that much. They only need like 100,000 or 200,000 in cap space, I think it is. But, they have to do enough. I think the whole thing is $600K. So it's less than a standard minimum contract. But my other theory is, let's say, Andrew, that Winnipeg wins this game, whether it's regulation or overtime, and you're just looking at that going 4 points in 3 games, or heaven forbid 6 in 3, which is still possible, but outrageous to think that the Jets would lose their final 3 games. I do think that Edmonton game is going to be a tricky one on the back-to-back. But if that happens and you look at it and go, we're pretty much, the Stars are going to be locked into the 2nd seed, then maybe you do give Tyler a chance to play against Utah on Saturday. Then he could play Detroit, and then you could give him a couple days to rest, to recover. Maybe you want him to play a game, sit one, and play one. It gives you some options. So that's sort of when we were talking earlier about not throwing the kitchen sink at it. Whether or not first place is legitimately up for grabs after this game might affect that. Now, on Miro Heiskanen, he's not as close. He is skating. Pete said this morning that they had a conversation about reintegrating him into the group, meaning morning skate, non-contact practice, starting to do that. He's not there yet. He's a step behind Seguin. And there's 2 things on Seguin. One is because he was so ahead of schedule, and he really is, for the kind of surgery he had in December, the fact that we're talking about April 10th, he's close to playing, is remarkable. But they were able to take their time, have him do some stuff, give him some days, do some more stuff. If they were rushing because they needed the points just to make the playoffs and scramble him back in, he might have played sooner, but he might not have had the proper rehab. And so if you follow the Seguin timeline, to me, and this is a very long-winded way of saying we're not going to see Miro anytime soon, but I believe that we're going to see Heiskanen start when he starts popping up in the group. He's still going to be weeks away. So right now, for me, and the team has basically said they're not expecting him for the first round, but they're not ruling him out. To me, he's highly doubtful until the second round, unless we start seeing him in team practices.
Yeah, that's he is such a difference maker. I mean, he's simply one of the best players in the National Hockey League, not just defenseman. And it's been pretty amazing to see what Dallas has been able to do with that massive hole in the lineup. Hey, just quickly before we go, cannot wait for this game tonight. I'm sure we'll be having another chat coming up in the next few weeks at some point. I just have to ask you about a non-hockey topic, the return of Luka Doncic. I mean, that trade still, it just seems like it resonates so much. Like, I've never seen a fan base do a complete 180, and justifiably so, frankly. What's been the aftermath of that deal like for guys like you in the sports media in Dallas? And thought on the scene last night of course, him coming back and dropping 45 on his old team.
Well, I mean, we expected that because he's a stone cold killer. And once the puck drops, or in this case, the tip off goes, he turns from, emotional tears and feeling like this should never have happened. Why am I not in Dallas anymore? To game time. He can put that, and killer instinct just goes crazy. He is an absolute assassin, and it's really fun to watch. Now, I grew up in New England, so I'm by birth and my formative years a Boston sports fan. So Red Sox, Celtics, Bruins, Patriots. But I've been working in hockey for a couple of decades now, and you start cheering for players more than teams. I've been covering and working for the Dallas Stars I worked for the team for a decade now for DLS. And so obviously I've been in Dallas for 10, 11 years now. And when this happened, I got to see Dirk's last year and Luka's first overlapping, and I actually got to see one of his final games, Dirk, and watch Luka play. And he makes you just want to be a fan because he's one of those generational transformative talents. I took my 2 teenage sons, and my wife and I went to a Mavs game. It was against the Phoenix Suns because for some strange reason, my younger son is a Phoenix Suns fan. I don't know why. Yeah, exactly. He's also a fan of the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Seattle Seahawks, and Newcastle, if you're an EPL fan. I'm a big Liverpool guy. It's just all over that. But hey, I love him for it. So we go see the Suns and the Mavs play, and there's no Luka because he's been traded, and no Kyrie because he had the season-ending injury, and Anthony Davis was hurt, and Daniel Gafford and Blake Lively. I go on PJ Washington. We were watching G Leaguers play for the most part, and you're going, but here I had this. It was a month after the trade. And I don't go to a lot of Mavs games because we have stars all the time. The last thing I want to do is go to the arena the next night over and over again. Right? You need some time off. I remember the game ended. Phoenix won. and we're walking through the concourse to leave. And we had a Stars game that night on the road. So I wasn't even going to drive home. I was just going to walk over to the DLS studios, which is about 4 or 5 blocks away. And so I wasn't in a hurry, and I'm looking around, and all these people are milling, and people had left halfway through the game because it wasn't that close. And there's still, this was a month. This was, again, a month ago, but a month after the trade. Luka jerseys everywhere. And I'm just looking around, Andrew, and I went, I cannot believe this organization did that. I can't. He's everywhere. He is the huge face of the NBA, let alone just the team. And you got rid of him.
They were in the finals last year.
They were in the finals last year. They objectively made their team better. And they got rid of their superstar, who at one point they were talking about, they were afraid he might want to leave them when he became a free agent. And they actually accomplished their mission of making him want to stay and be a Mav for his entire career. And they traded him hastily for a phenomenal player, but a bad return, and didn't do it. And they're going to lose a ton of revenue because of it.
Oh,
and this was a month ago. So then you watch last night, and they played a very heartwarming, that's the wrong word, a gut-wrenching tribute video. It was really well done before they announced the starting lineup. So Luka's on the court, and I'm sure if anyone watched it, they saw this. But you know what it did? Aside from bringing Luka to tears, it reopened wounds for anybody that wasn't already still bleeding from this, that were Mavs fans. And it angered everybody. And they started chanting, "Fire Nico," Nico Harrison, the Mavs general manager, and did it the whole game. And Andrew, we hear it during Stars games. Stars are up 5-2 over the Vancouver Canucks the other night, and thinking the game's over, and you hear "Fire Nico" chants. But it's stunning. I haven't seen anything like it other than, and this is a really weird comp because it happened, Mikko Rantanen being traded away by the Colorado Avalanche. Now, that was more for salary cap reasons than they didn't like him or didn't think they could win with him. But Rantanen didn't want to leave. When he came to Dallas, he told us the exact same thing. I never wanted to leave. And then he very much quickly corrected the record and said, I gave Carolina a chance. I didn't decide I didn't want to sign there until weeks later, about a week before the deadline. And then he wanted to be in Dallas. But even then, the team went back to Colorado. It was March 16th, I think it was, a Sunday. And he was in Denver. And it was the same thing. It was one of their superstars that they love. They won a Stanley Cup with him. And here he is out in warm-ups in a Dallas Stars sweater.
You know, the 30 for 30 on the Luka trade is going to be, it can't come soon enough.
No.
And it will be one of the most interesting watches ever. Our focus tonight, of course, is on a big hockey game between the Jets and Stars. Owen, thanks so much for the time. Let's do this again soon. Enjoy the game tonight. Thanks for jumping on. And I'm sure we'll have some of our folks pop in and see what you guys are up to after the game tonight. DLLS Sports. Check it out. Give them a sub on YouTube, folks. Owen, thanks for doing this.
Thanks, Andrew, for having me. And we'll definitely do it again. And hopefully we'll be playing again in the playoffs this year, because the second round series would be awfully fun.
Sign me up for that. Sign me up for that. Thanks so much for doing this. There's Owen Newkirk at DLLS Sports in Dallas. Great segment. I had to ask about that Luka Doncic thing. That was such a crazy scene. And the fact that they're chanting to fire the Mavs GM at Stars games tells you. I wouldn't be surprised when the Cowboys get going this year if the Texas Stadium is echoing with Fire Nico. Listen, Hammer's going to come on in a minute. Of course, Princess Auto, great partners of ours and proud sponsors of the Jets. And Princess Auto is presenting Whiteout Mania as we get ready for the first round of the playoffs. Fans, you can showcase your fan spirit through whiteout costumes, home decor, special recipes, cheers, hype songs, or any other unique way they can support the Jets for the chance to be featured in content and win tickets to a playoff game. What you're going to want to do is enter your best do-it-yourself whiteout celebration efforts, whether it be individuals, classrooms, businesses, at winnipegjets.com/whiteoutmania. And don't forget, starting on Tuesday, April 15th, you can pop by Princess Auto locations and pick up a complimentary Whiteout Mania lawn sign One per customer with no purchase required. Huge thanks to Princess Auto for their support, and get out there on Tuesday and get those Whiteout Mania signs in advance of the playoffs. Listen, I can wait to get fishing and golfing, and hopefully we've got a long playoff run, but I'll tell you what, the summer just isn't the same without getting on the water with a trip to Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. If you're thinking about an amazing fly-in fishing opportunity in our own province where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg, Aikens is the spot with world-class fishing and even more world-class hospitality. Find out more on the 2025 fishing season today at aikenslake.com or check them out on all their socials over at Aikens Lake. And hey, speaking of white suits, guys, if you need a suit or you need to up your menswear game heading into spring and summer, get on down to F Apparel, the best in custom men's clothing with suits starting at just over $400, chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, the biggest selection of men's accessories around. A great grad special right now where grads will receive a free shirt and tie with the purchase of any suit. And of course, great deals for wedding parties as we get into wedding season. It's all there for you. 190 Smith Street downtown, F Apparel. Find out more online and set yourself up for an appointment at F. That's EPH apparel.com. All right, we're going to dive into some more Jets talk. We will head to Ottawa a little later on with Brent Wallace. But it's hammer time on the program. And this segment is a presentation of your Prairie Toyota dealers. You've got a great contest going on right now, giving away a signed Mark Scheifele jersey, a signed Connor Hellebuck jersey, and other great WST merch. What you got to do is enter for your chance to win at Prairie Toyota Dealers on Instagram at Prairie Toyota Dealers or their Facebook page at Prairie Toyota to enter. We've also got a link in the description of this episode. So if you're with us right now, just click on that and make sure you're entered. And the contest closes on the 23rd, so enter today. Get in and go with the Toyota Tundra. Take the road less traveled in comfort, room for teammates, friends, and gear. And can we talk about how good this truck looks? Like anywhere it goes, it can turn heads. Starting at $154 weekly for 60 months at 5.19% APR with $66.99 down. Hybrids are available. Find out more and visit shoptoyota.ca. All right, Hammer. Great to have you back on the program. Let's get right into it. This is a game tonight that we have had circled on the calendar for weeks. Not a great game on Saturday night for the Jets with a big opportunity, but man, the Vegas game and that performance on Monday, I think, has really certainly given the fan base a lot of optimism and, dare I say, confidence going into these final four games that they'll be able to finish the job, win the division, avoid the Avalanche in the first round, and let the Stars in Colorado go at it for a couple of weeks.
Hey, Huss, how you doing, man?
I'm fired up. I cannot wait for this game tonight. We just had a great chat with Owen Newkirk for it. And as much as I'm dialed in and pumped about the Masters, 7 o'clock tonight in that puck drop, it feels like, it's such a huge opportunity for the Jets. And Scott Arniel's been talking about doing things themselves. Well, I can't think of a better way to do it than to go into Dallas, beat the team that's chasing you, and all but clinch yourself the top of the West.
Well, and that's it right there. Go into Dallas, win. You separate yourselves, probably clinch technically, I don't think. Maybe you get close.
It's not technically, but it's like 99. 1 point
right.
On either side, totally. Lost or gained.
Exactly. Barely any wiggle room. It's such a massive game. Like this is as close to a playoff game as the Jets will play before they head into the playoffs. And that's a significant test for them right here, right? I think a lot of people, you looked at certain, games, particularly you mentioned the Vegas game. You look at the St. Louis game. Those were hurdles, if you will. This is a mountain. This to me is the you want to prove it to your fan base. You want to have fans. As an organization, you want to have fans feeling good about it. This is manufactured, whatever. But if you can get this game, the buzz in this city will be so massive. And if you don't, well, those callers tighten up, Huss, right? This 4 points looks pretty good right now. 2 points, not so much. Even if you have the same amount of games played, it puts that added pressure on the Jets to play playoff hockey the rest of the way. And so I'm not saying that if they get a victory tonight, excuse me, it's hang up your skates and don't care about the remaining 3 games. But it's not going into every game like a mental battle. And like, again, that analogy I talked about weeks ago, looking over your shoulder and seeing the other team coming. So what a game tonight. What a massive stage for the Jets to take advantage of. And I'll finish it by saying this, whether it's St. Louis most recently or other times throughout the year, it's like when the Jets are facing some kind of crazy obstacle or hurdle or whatever, that's when they succeed. So maybe this pressure going into this game being in Dallas, it's weird, Huss. I think that it being in Dallas kind of takes a little bit of the pressure off, in the sense of like, not in the pressure to get the 2 points. It's going to be more difficult to play in front of a visiting crowd, but it's like Dallas coming in here, that is just an added element of pressure to do it in front of your own fans. So I think, the Jets have been good on the road. They've obviously been terrific at home. I'm not trying to make the argument that they wouldn't want to be playing at home, but I am trying to take advantage of the fact that they are on the road here. And this is an opportunity for them to cover a lot of things, including bringing their fan base really, 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 really excited heading into the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I am with you. And if you look at those games, I mean, listen, March 14th was a huge game between these teams. Less than a month ago, we've been talking about the big Friday night matchup. And, to your point, it was another great performance by Winnipeg in a very high leverage game and, a comfortable 4-1 win. They did the same thing earlier in the season, before the West Final on that doubleheader day back in November. And they have played very well. I mean, even the game they lost, that was during that one sort of downstretch 10-game segment that they had during that crazy schedule. And, it was a 1-1 game in the third period. This team seems to be, and I really got the feeling on Monday, played against a Blues team that had won 12 in a row, that they are comfortable. What was it Maurice used to say? You need to get comfortable being uncomfortable. It was a game that they probably should have been up by a couple goals, but they weren't. It was a 1-1 game, and they never got off of it. And there weren't really many nervous moments, and they played a full 60 minutes, which is something that Dallas didn't do against Vancouver and got bit. But this would be, and I refer to this as an opportunity, because even if they lose, they'll be 2 points up. You've got 3 games left. By my calculations, they'd have to win 2 of their last 3 to clinch first. A win tonight by Dallas would put Dallas and Winnipeg tied at 42 regulation and overtime wins. They would be 1 game back of them the regulation wins would be the same. Jets would have a 1 point, or Jets would have a considerable advantage in regulation and overtime wins. It's 52-48. But again, you don't want to have to worry about those last few games. I mean, the advantage for Winnipeg, knowing that there's back-to-back games on the weekend and that other game against Anaheim, would be to put yourself in a situation where you can make all the decisions with one thing in mind, and that's your opponent on the 19th through 20th at Canada Life Center in Game 1 of the playoffs.
So to piggyback off that logic, Huss, I think, to your point, they have been really good at that, kind of, being comfortable, being uncomfortable. I think tonight's a big test, because I think the Jets' success, like the Jets weren't talking about the Blues winning 12 games coming into Winnipeg. I mean, yeah, media is talking about them being one of the hottest teams in the league, of course. And of course, these, players watch the standings. They follow the league very, very closely, despite what some say. They watch the standings. So it's not like they didn't know the Blues were coming in hot, but I think they wanted to be the ones who crushed them. Right, who ended that? I think that was more of the opportunity for it. I don't think they thought the big bad Blues were coming into town and giving them trouble. I think they were focused on themselves. I think you can make the argument that this game might be one of the few games, maybe even the only game, that this team starts thinking about it, about not what they do, about what the other team is, because this is kind of that even keel team, right? You're focused on this. You're thinking about the fact that they're behind you, and I just think this will be this is discomfort. This won't be comfortable for them. And I think if they can continue what they've been doing all season, being able to wade through those uncharted waters or rocky waters, that that this will be a huge test for them. It will be a thing. And I'm with you. I don't think that'll, we're building it up here like it's life or death a little bit, but I'm not saying that if they lose, it's somehow lost here. I think it depends on how they play. I think there is recency. I don't want to say recency bias, but I think there is that element of like, if you played a team 3 months ago and you meet them in the playoffs, you're not really thinking about that game you played in February or whatever. I do think because it's so close to the regular season that to the end of the regular season, that it could have some mental ramifications in the playoffs, wherever they meet. It would have to be obviously later in the series or in the playoffs. But so there's that added element there. But I do think that they are going to have some of the outside noise. I think there's going to be a little bit of a challenge there. But again, if you can get through that challenge, and the thing about Scott Arniel, I think we all really appreciate, having covered this team and whatever, is that he has a really good way of settling his guys down in the way that, like, not like not in an aggressive kind of like punishment way, but in a way of kind of bringing perspective to what it is and what they've done and reminding them of what they've done, right? And this has been a team that, maybe the results haven't been there, but the success has been there. And when you committed to your game, you get the results. And there's no better example of it this year. So even though you can kind of compare this team to last year's team, I think this team's even more mentally stronger, not just through the experiences of last year, but through the experiences of this season, seeing some of the results they're having, then having guys playing the way they're playing. That confidence, I think, is at a way higher level right now at this time of year than it was last year at this time of year.
No, I'm with you. And I mean, I think that, whatever about the November game, but that March 14th game was less than a month ago. That was a big high stakes game. They played very, very well in it, and they know that they can beat these guys, but they also know they're going up against a hell of a team. Mikko Rantanen in the lineup, albeit, getting him right now without Heiskanen is a bit of a bonus. And looks like the Jets are going to be getting back Pionk and hopefully Ehlers back, which will make them even more potent. I'm pretty sure I know what we're going to get from the Jets tonight. I'm really interested to see what we get from Dallas tonight, because, Dallas had been on that winning streak, but I don't want to say they were doing it with smoke and mirrors, but they were doing some games where they were getting outshot 2-1. Yeah. They were getting great goaltending. Like, it was really frustrating as a Jets fan to watch it. And I've watched most of the Dallas games for the last month. The last 3 games have not been as kind. They blew a lead to Pittsburgh and lost in regulation. They were up in the third period against Minnesota, lost in overtime. And then their last time out had a historic blown lead to the Vancouver Canucks, which cost them a point eventually in the standings. I mean, what do you expect from Dallas coming in tonight? I don't think they're going to be in a very good mood.
You watched that game against Vancouver?
Yeah, no, I turned it off.
You can talk about guys coming in and out of the lineup. There's not a single guy who's not going to be in that lineup tonight that isn't going to be pissed off and thinking about the last game. Like, I mean, I think you can say that about anything. You can talk about if they would have won 6-0, the confidence hanging into this game. There's lots of things that you can, alter to fit your narrative in that thing. But I do think that you're going to get an angry team. I think you're going to get a team who wants to show the Winnipeg Jets, probably believes they're the best team in the league or whatever. You got 2 teams that believe they're the best team in the league. Is there a better way of going to battle when you both think you're the best team in the NHL, and you're trying to make the case in this game that you're the best team in the NHL, and it might even have might even actually lead to who ends up being the best team in the league. I just think it's like almost like WWE Huss. Just all the storylines hanging.
Perfect. It's WrestleMania week. Why not?
Totally. Absolutely. Is it WrestleMania week?
It is. Jeez. It is. And this
I remember all those years I was in St. Louis for the WrestleMania, and Ric Flair sat beside me at the bar. It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. Well, he didn't it wasn't like he sat down there without a crowd. He came through the thing, and everyone was falling. And it just happened to be the only open seat was like right beside me, and I almost think someone asked me to leave. I just finished my bill up, so wasn't going to stick around to this big audience. Anyway,
did you give him a woo in the face or anything?
Man, not in the face, but I didn't. I bet you my woos were being drowned out by the other dozens, if not hundreds, of people who followed him into this St. Louis Grand Hotel. It was insane. But anyways, I don't even know what we were talking about now. You just took me straight to WrestleMania.
The minute I mentioned WrestleMania, completely off. Well, we were on the road with the Jets, and I want to say this was maybe 2013 down in Florida when WrestleMania was at whatever the Dolphins Stadium. And I didn't go, unfortunately, but I do remember going to Jet practice the next day, and our old buddy Evander Kane rolled in with the "Can you smell what the Rock is cooking?" and had more. Like, I didn't talk to Evander very much, but the minute I mentioned WrestleMania, he just wanted to talk about it for about 10 minutes. Said it was the greatest thing he'd ever been to. So
Nice.
But yeah, but this game does feel like somewhat like a main event of the regular season. And, you know, we always joke, Remis is always talking about the Cody Rhodes finishing the story. Well, the story for the Jets all year long is proving themselves early on. Oh, this is a really good team, hanging there at the top of the league all year long. You know, to use a bit of a WWE analogy, a win tonight would sort of feel like winning that main event at the end of the card, of course, before you go on to the Stanley Cup playoffs. And I mean, the stage is set. I mean, the opponent, the location, the team, everything there for you on a, well, I don't want to say on a silver platter because it's going to take a lot of work to get that thing done. But, you know, Connor Rabchik, let me ask you if you agree with this. Let me pull this tweet up that Connor had, because I was thinking about it earlier on, and I think I'm sort of with him on this. He was talking about tonight's game, and he said, "I feel confident in saying that tonight's game is easily one of, if not the biggest regular season game in the Jets 2.0 franchise history. Winnipeg has never won the Central, has never won the West or the President's Trophy, and can essentially lock up all three. Maybe not the President's, but that's kind of secondary with the win tonight in Dallas." I mean, I've got a hard time thinking back to a game that has as much juice behind it if the team could go in and get the job done.
Yeah, I was, as you were, you know, I felt like as you were going through when the inevitable question was going to be, I was trying to think back to games that would have mattered in the regular season. And while there always seemed to bring on some kind of life, no matter whether it's game 15 or game 82, I can't think of an example where the Jets needed this win to, you know, punch their ticket to the playoffs. It almost seems like it's the opposite direction I would be looking at right now. Like, I'd be looking at whether they were trying to win to squeeze into the playoffs, not to, obviously they haven't clinched any, you know, division titles and conference titles. It would be interesting though, Huss, if you go back to that year against, you know, where Nashville kind of squeezed in there in 2018. Was it 2018 or what year was that? Anyways,
2018.
Yeah.
Jets were second overall and second in the division.
And so, you know, maybe there was a game in and around at the end of that season that could have, you know, maybe created a different fate for Winnipeg. But yeah, I mean, there's no doubt in this game. I mean, it's all about the opponent, right? It's not the number. There may be important games the rest of this season if they lose this one, right? Game 80, it might go down to game 82. Or if the Jets win this one, they clinch all three of those things. And maybe that becomes the biggest one. But certainly I'm with, I don't know if I could disagree with Connor by suggesting how big this game is. I mean, it feels that big. And particularly, you know, as we mentioned, being on the road, Dallas isn't an easy place to play. And it will be against a very tough opponent. So a victory and, you know, take away all those other things, just a victory against a team like that in their own barn is impressive. To be able to do that with the stakes being as high as they are and potentially divisions, conferences, and potentially President's Cup trophy on the line. Yeah, I'd call that pretty massive.
And of course, not having to play Colorado in the first round, which is why people in Dallas and Winnipeg have been freaking out for the last month as both of these teams keep on winning. Hey, listen, we're going to go to Ottawa in just a second and talk to Brent Wallace. Just quickly on the way out, I can't wait to start talking Bombers with you, CFL with you as we get closer to the season. But just quickly, I mean, another massive year business-wise for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. $7 million operating profit. I saw that. I thought back to the Bombers like 10, 20 years ago, and that number was just inconceivable. It's pretty special what they've built there off the field, not to mention what they've done on the field.
Yeah, and both of those kind of work. What they've done off the field and what they do on the field has resulted in the $7 million, right? It's obviously, I think it starts with being a good team on the field. We've seen the Winnipeg Blue Bombers make it to 5 straight Grey Cups, right? Their first Grey Cup was snapping. Well, I guess not snapping, getting there, but obviously winning it for the first time in almost 30 years, and it's just been kind of smooth sailing since then. I even in my conversation with President and CEO Wade Miller on the phone. I kind of chuckled when in his press release when he said that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have been financially stable for a long time. And I started thinking to myself, this feels recency bias, because there were years where, you know, they would bring out these financial reports and it wouldn't be like, we wouldn't be arguing, but I'd be like, this like you're hiding things. Like this is an operating but net budget, but you know, you weren't counting, you're paying your rent, right? Like paying the rent of $3 million a year. And you were telling people you were making $2.7 million a year as a net operating profit. But then when you actually had to pay your bills, it was in the red. Now, I mean, this is the other thing, Haas, and I know a lot of listeners aren't going to love that, you know, reminding them of this, but this is also a team that got an $85 million loan for the most part forgiven, and then given $10 million to throw in their capital fund after COVID. So they were working with $10 million. Now they had to change, or they had to pay for all the renovations and stuff of the stadium. Guess what? They like that because they're putting in all this cool shit that they're coming up with, because all the money they're making, they're putting in a new players lounge, which is going to be envy of the league. They're just doing all this stuff they have the decision making in that. Through the old agreement, I mean, I'm fairly confident about this. You can't just do whatever you want. You had to get it approved. So it's certainly credit to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, to Wade Miller, the organization, because I just see Wade Miller as a guy who walks around all day and there's just ideas bouncing in his head on how he can generate revenue for the football club. And he's done that perfectly. And like, you know, my last thing on it is that I was getting calls from a bunch of people and asking me, is Wade Miller going to be the new commissioner of the CFL? I said, why would he want that? I mean, he's got such a good situation going in Winnipeg, such a strong, you know, again, strong business on the field and off the field. And that $7 million, that is a franchise record. I believe it's a CFL record. I can't remember the last time CFL teams were talking about making upwards of $7 million in a season. So that's obviously a big deal. The other thing too, Huss, is that you need to kind of like take advantage of these times. So with the Grey Cup coming in 2025, with the concert series, with their new partnerships, including, you know, Princess Auto, like everything is going really well for everybody. The ticket people, the sponsorship people, whereas 5-10 years ago, you would almost kind of, well, I'm not going to speculate on what they were feeling, but you would call these businesses, you would try to call people to buy tickets, and it would be very, very difficult. Now people are coming to the Bombers. They want to be part of this brand, and that is the envy of certainly the CFL. It's the envy of all sports leagues and teams. You want that community feel, you want to get behind it, and you certainly don't want to do anything to screw it up, and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have done just that.
Yeah, the Joe Mack, Garth Bushko era seems like decades ago. It's good times for the Bombers. Can't wait for the season. Can't wait to do this again with you. Enjoy the game tonight, my man. Thanks for doing this.
Always a pleasure, my friend. See you next week.
There's Jeff Hamilton at Jeff K. Hamilton on X. And, of course, you can read all of his work in the Winnipeg Free Press. We're going to be heading to Ottawa right now, but reminding all of you that as we get ready for playoff hockey, the whiteout, do not wait to head down to Royal Sports. All the whites are out. The jerseys, the hoodies, the player t-shirts, hats. But, man, it has been so busy as the hype gets going for the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. You know Royal Sports has been the original sports superstore, family-owned for over 50 years in Winnipeg, and is the place to go for the biggest selection of all merchandise when it comes to your favorite team, but especially the Winnipeg Jets. And they are locked and loaded for the playoffs, and of course, locked and loaded for spring with baseball, softball, soccer, bikes, all coming in by the day. Pop by Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway, and give them a follow on Instagram as well for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. Hey, I know the local Boston Pizzas are going to be bumping tonight for the 7 o'clock puck drop between the Jets and the Dallas Stars. No better place to get together with your gang for Jets hockey than your local BP. And if you want to hang with the IC boys tonight, they'll be doing their post-game show after the game at Boston Pizza Taylor, and I will invite everyone to come down for a little IC watch party. So if you're looking for a great spot to watch the game, that is one, but any BP will be banging tonight. Pick a player contest, ice cold schooners, world famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, you know the drill. And hey, if you're staying at home, order online at bostonpizza.com. And as we just before we head out to Ottawa, let's give a big shout out and thanks to Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
And day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, as I promised yesterday, I wanted to do something on the Sens. I knew we'd be talking about Jet Stars all show, but the Ottawa Senators are back in the playoffs, and who better to have join us than the host of the Coming In Hot Sens podcast, Brent Wallace. Brent, what is up? It's great to have you on in the Peg on Winnipeg Sports Talk. How are you?
Oh, I love it. I just heard you talking about the whiteout, and I think it's one of the great things in sports. I'm a huge fan of the whiteout, so always a pleasure to chat with Winnipeg anytime I can.
What's the vibe like in Ottawa right now with the Sens punching their ticket to the playoffs?
So, like I've covered the team since 1998, and I've only missed one playoff round. And then you went through these dark era of no playoffs for 7 years. You took the playoffs for granted, and now you can feel like there's this energy in the city that hasn't been there for a really long time. And just with a new owner coming in and new faces, it's a really good feeling. It just feels really, really good in the city right now. I have no idea if they're going to win a playoff game. It doesn't really matter. I just really like the way the vibe is.
It's pretty clear that coming in, it was time. And we talked about it for the last 2 years. Which of these rebuilding teams are going to finally do it? Is it Detroit? Is it Buffalo? Is it going to be the Ottawa Senators? And the Sens stepped up. We can get to Montreal in a minute. I was high on the Sens. I'm shocked that the Habs look like they're going to be a part of it as well. But it's been a long time coming. And I can't imagine, like, we all know what sort of competitor Brady Tkachuk is. But, Tim Stützle, that young core, they've lost a lot. They've had to do it together. You're around the team all the time. How has this resonated within that locker room that they've got it done? And I imagine their level of excitement to take a shot against a team like potentially the Maple Leafs in the Battle of Alberta is making the players even more excited than the fans are right now.
Well, and the players don't want to talk about, who we may face in the first round, whether it's potentially the Battle of Ontario or not. But everybody in this city would like to see it as the Battle of Ontario. And they think perhaps Ottawa may get a little revenge if they can get in this time and face the Leafs. But
they've owned the Leafs this year, haven't they?
Yeah. I think they've won 5-6 straight games against Toronto. The pressure's on the Leafs. Even if, right? Like, I don't know of another team. I got to think here for a quick sec. I don't know of another team that has the same kind of pressure to get out of the first round than the Toronto Maple Leafs, who haven't done it for 9 straight years. So if there's I think if there's a little crack, you got to feel like they may not be able to survive it. But we'll look forward to seeing if it is the Toronto Maple Leafs. But you talked about that core losing. Like, Thomas Chabot played over 500 games. He's the longest serving Senator, has never played in the playoffs. Brady Tkachuk, 500 games, has never played. There's the level of excitement with these guys have earned a shot at being in there is palpable. And they did it because they brought in guys that they needed, like veterans of David Perron, who many people weren't sure of at the beginning. He's been outstanding. Claude Giroux was brought in a couple of years ago. Nick Cousins, who many people dislike if you're not on his team. He's a fantastic guy, and he's great to have in your lineup. And the other guy, Michael Amadio, he's won a Stanley Cup with Vegas. They've all had huge contributions to this team this year, and that's a big part of why. They've gotten the right people in place, and they've slotted them in the right places.
I was in Vegas visiting our old buddy Gary Lawless earlier this year. I was there for the Chiefs Raider game, and there was a couple games, and I went to that Sens game. It was like some of a mid-afternoon game. It was Nevada Day or something like that, and the Sens, I thought, played really well. They got a couple goals from their fourth line, and there they were up 4-3 with about 4 minutes left in the game, and bang, bang, Vegas scores 2, empty netter, and it's over. And I remember talking to Alex Adams afterwards, and it's like this team is really talented, but they're just learning what it takes to beat those good teams, what it takes to go that extra mile and finish the job. And over the course of this season, it seems like they took a big, big step forward in playing a full 60 minutes and completing the task to conclusion.
And that's a great point because it was well talked about and documented in Ottawa how this team wasn't mentally strong enough to compete. And let's not forget, they are sitting in a wild card spot. They're not the greatest hockey team to ever play. However, they have made leaps and bounds compared to the way they played in the last couple of years. Their defensive game and their structure compared to last year is night and day. And I think that's a big part of why they've turned it around. Let's not forget they've added a Vezina Trophy winning goaltender, Linus Ullmark, who's been outstanding. Ottawa, if they don't lead, they're tied for the league lead in shutouts. They've got 10 on the year. They've been very good defensively. And Travis Green has instilled in them a system of playing in your own end, of not trying to blow the zone all the time, not trying to cheat the game. And it's paid off. And you can see there's a belief now. They got pumped 5-0 by Vancouver in November. And I think it's like November 23rd. And since November 25th, they're one of the top teams in the league. And I think until last game, they had the second best winning percentage in the Eastern Conference since November 25th. They've actually been a really good hockey team for a long time. They just need to learn to grow together and win. They've done that recently. And I think Travis Green deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah, listen, I just feel like this team is going to go in there knowing that, hey, listen, they've done the first step. They've made it to the playoffs. But your point about the pressure on whoever that they're playing, it won't be on Ottawa.
Oh.
You got some young guys with a lot of legitimate excitement about something they haven't done before. That can be a very, very dangerous team. And you mix in a hot goalie, and I would argue that almost anything is possible in that division, especially if they get the Leafs in the Battle of Ontario. I did want to ask you about management. You mentioned the ownership change. Steve Staios taking over. Our good friend Dave Poulin, who was so good to us for many years on the program. I texted Pooley the other day to congratulate him. He was all fired up and very complimentary about what the Jets are doing as well right now. How much has the behind-the-scenes changes helped move this team forward on the ice?
No, night and day, really, right? Like when you think about it, the changes they made, they knew they needed to address bringing in a right shot D who's a veteran, and Nick Jensen. He's been outstanding. They needed to address goaltending, and they brought that in. They needed to address veteran guys up front, and that was David Perron and Michael Amadio, who could help them win and be very good at what they did. So when Steve took over a year before, Steve Staios, fans were like, he hasn't done anything. Is this guy he's just done nothing, and this team's leaving and not making the playoffs. And so fans were completely impatient. Then they watched him in the summer rebuild this team. And I think they saw he needed to understand a year of what this team was like and how the players were and what they were to know what to do. And he's certainly done it. Like, you can't argue the results. The results speak for themselves. If they win 2 more games, I think in the next 4, they'll have had one of the top 5 most wins, I think, in franchise history. Something ridiculous that they haven't done in a really long time.
Well, I mean, the job was to get to the playoffs. They're there. I think they're going to be a tough out and a real dangerous team. And just on that topic, I'm interested in what you've seen since the trade deadline, because they did make a pretty significant move that really was a hockey trade. And I know Josh Norris was productive for the Ottawa Senators, and it was obviously a really beloved teammate. We saw the way Brady Tkachuk reacted afterwards. Oh. But I don't know, you see this team far more than me. Dylan Cousins seems like he's got a little bit of an edge to his game that might be more suited for the playoffs. Are the Sens a better, more playoff-ready team post-trade deadline with the Norris for Cousins move?
It's a great point, Hustler, because the issue is Cousins hasn't scored in 11 games. When he first got here in his first 11, I think he had points in 9 or 10 of them. And so everybody's like, oh, this is fantastic. He hasn't scored of late, and Ottawa has struggled as a team to score. However, they do play a much better defensive game. Dylan Cousins, and they gave up a 35 goal scorer in Josh Norris to get Dylan Cousins, but Dylan comes in with a different game, and as you said, a little bit of bite. He brings a little bit of a nastier edge to his game. He's not a pure goal scorer like Josh Norris, but they needed a change on the top 6 of this group. And unfortunately for Josh, who was one of the most liked guys who has ever played for the Ottawa Senators, he found himself on the way out. But the addition of Dylan Cousins, I think, is going to pay off for Ottawa here in the postseason.
Well, Brent, I mean, it's such a great time for Canadian hockey fans. Unfortunate, all season long, we were thinking, okay, one of Calgary or Vancouver are going to be that other Canadian team in. And then both the Sens and the Habs got in, and we've got 5 Canadian teams. After last night, it doesn't look like we'll get that 6th, but I'm sure the suits at Rogers are happy that they're finally going to have a lot of Canadian content. And I mean, just on the way out, like never mind what happens on the ice. What do you think a battle of Ontario would be like in the province, and especially in the capital area with the Sens back in and going up against one of their arch rivals? I'm sure the Habs would be right up there too, but a team that comes with all the media and all the attention as the underdog. I can't imagine it. It's almost the perfect storm for Ottawa and the organization.
Like Ottawa, as you know, will have house money. They will have no pressure on them whatsoever because everybody just said, we just want you to get into the playoffs. So they don't have anything to really worry about. Now, obviously, the players want to win, but when you face a Toronto team that's going to kind of come under this, and you understand this, the constant scrutiny and questions of, can you get it done? Is this the year? Is this team going to take a step? What needs to change? How are you going to, all those questions of self-doubt. I know they have mental skills coaches, but you continue to know, like Austin Matthews has been there forever. He understands what has transpired, and now the pressure's on these guys to perform. That's a lot to put on them. And then just to bring them in to a whole environment of the stakes being a little higher because it's the province and it's the Battle of Ontario. I like it. I love the chaos that will likely ensue if this is the case. Just give me the chaos. I don't care, but it would be fun to watch this play out.
Well, buckle up. I mean, the Sens are going to be a team that I think a lot of people without skin in the game are going to be pulling for. I cannot wait for it. We're kind of focusing on the task at hand here in Winnipeg as they try to lock down the Central.
That is
Dallas
a hell of a
there.
hockey team. Yeah, it's fun to watch that team play.
They've exceeded a lot of people's expectations early on, but the fact that they've been able to continue it throughout and potentially could finish on top of the league is something a lot of people did not have on the bingo card at the start of the year.
I know you got to go. The thing about the West is that blows, because we don't experience it as much in the East. We don't see it in the West we don't see the West as much, obviously. How good so many teams are. Like, you're playing Dallas tonight, and Winnipeg has been this great team all year, and I look, and Dallas is like 4 points back. It's wild of how many solid teams are on the West.
Well, and if you don't win the Central, you get Colorado in the first round. And like, all due respect to St. Louis and Minnesota, who are both really good teams and will be tough outs for whoever plays them, you're moving up a weight class when you take on Nate McKinnon and that roster right now. It's going to be great. Would have been nice maybe to have 1-8, so that wouldn't be the case. Maybe not exactly fair to the second place team. I mean, Dallas could finish 3rd overall, potentially even 2nd overall, and play the 5th overall team in the first round of the playoffs. But we like the rivalries, Gary says, and they're putting it all together. Hey, Brent, before we go, I'm sure there are a lot of people that are going to be really forward to kind of following the Sens playoff run. Fill people in on the pod and the content you guys are cranking out and where they can find it.
Some people like the show, so you can catch us at Coming In Hot in YouTube. We prefer the video side because I'm still a TV guy at heart, and I have some old makeup I like to wear occasionally. And then we are also on all the podcast major networks, so you can find us everywhere. But yeah, Coming In Hot, just have to search us. You'll find us. Me and Jason York, I should say Jason York and I like to screw around occasionally on here, and then we've added Graham Nichols for the playoff run.
Love it. Well, listen, best of luck to the Sens, and hopefully we can be talking about some playoff runs for both the team from Ottawa and Winnipeg over the next few weeks, and maybe catch up again. Thanks so much for doing this, Brent.
Appreciate it. Take care.
Good stuff. There's Brent Wallace, Coming In Hot, Sens podcast. Check it out on YouTube and all your favorite podcast platforms. I'm fired up. I mean, listen, obviously we're focusing in on Winnipeg, but I mean, Leafs Sens in the first round would be so much fun. And Brent is exactly right. All of the pressure would be on the guys in blue and white. And the Sens really would be playing with house money. But I think Brady Tkachuk is going to drag his team to, I'm not sure that they'll win that series if it does, in fact, go Toronto-Ottawa. But I'll tell you what, they'll take their pound of flesh on the way out. All right, we're going to get to a Masters update for Breezy Bend in a few minutes, but I want to get to the why not question of the day, and Remis put it out in a poll. Why not question of the day for not AutoCorp at Waverly and McGillivray is just doing a vibe check of the fans. What is your confidence level going into tonight's game? And the fans are fired up. The fans are fired up. I see a lot of comments in the chat right now. Hey, Gordon, thanks very much for the super chat. We may as well get to some of these. For fan feedback, brought to you by Fans First, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market, where what you see is what you pay. No fees, no added fees, which is one of the reasons why Fans First has become so popular for both buyers and sellers in the Winnipeg market. I can tell you as a season ticket holder, there's been some times where I've had an extra pair. Always use Fans First if I need to sell them, get someone else a great price, and get those seats used going forward. All right, lots of love for the Sens. Mission Boy Bruce, low-key rooting for the Sens in the East. Silas Stahl, Sens are my team to cheer for in the East. I think there's some connections, sort of some similarities, if you will, between Winnipeg and Ottawa, two smallest markets, often left at the bottom of the highlight reel after they go to the bigger cities. So, and listen, a real fun team to watch with a lot of exciting young players. But the fan feedback for the question of the day for from Reem is 47% cautiously optimistic. I think that's where I put myself in. Sky high, let's go Jets. That's 43%. 7 of you, a nervous wreck. And 2% were doomed. I'm so proud of the chat. You guys are fine. It may have taken 78 games. And again, they could win tonight. They could lose tonight. There's still work to be done. But I'm proud for people to not be freaking out like maybe happened a little more regularly earlier this year when the team would lose a game. This is a hell of a hockey team. They proved it all year long. And a huge opportunity to put an exclamation mark on that or stamp it, all but officially, to lock down the West in tonight's game against the Dallas Stars. Keep all your comments coming in the chat. Fan feedback brought to you by Fans First. By fans, for fans, no fees. We are going to I'll give you a full rundown, of Masters just before we finish up. But I did want to get to the captain. Adam Lowry, career high 16 goals, leading the way on and off the ice with the C on his chest. He spoke earlier, and obviously everyone talking about this one tonight, but also with the good feeling about the way they played on Monday against a really good St. Louis team. Here is Lowry on tonight's game, and the want to follow up Monday's great performance with another strong game, this time on the road against the team chasing him.
And we've talked about in here where you come out, you have a great game, against great teams, and then you kind of take a deep breath and there's a bit of a letdown. It's, about stringing them together, and, we found ways where we haven't, maybe gotten off to the best start following those games, but, a real critical game for us against, one of the best teams in the league and the Stars. So, it's another game that should be easy to get up for. We're excited. It's going to be, playoff style. They're a team that's really ramping up near the end too, and we're all fighting for position. So, it'll be important we get off to a similar start to last game. I know we didn't get rewarded with any goals in the first period, but that style of play is real conducive to winning.
All right, so Adam Lowry on tonight's game, and listen, this is the next piece, and this is part of the reason why I think we have so few people freaking out in the chat today. And listen, there's still a few people that are maybe trapped in, April of 2024 or 2023, knowing what happened in the last couple playoffs. But now through 78 games, this team has been consistently good, and has earned, I think, the belief and the faith of the fan base. And for me, the biggest reason for that is the way they've risen to the occasion in big games all year. This is Lowry speaking about the way they've been able to raise their level of performance in games like March 14 against Dallas, like the game recently against Washington, like Monday night, in the most important and the biggest games on the schedule.
I think it kind of stems from the belief in this room that when we play as well as we can beat anyone on any night. And I think Arnie's done a real good job of making sure we know the importance of the games, coming in with a good game plan. And a lot of trust in our structure. I think, against these elite teams that we've been able to beat, we've done a real good job frustrating them, not really giving up a whole lot, and being patient in the game. I think, when the Stars beat us earlier this year, it was a close game, and then we start pushing a little bit, and they're a little more patient, and that's the difference. I think you're playing against elite teams. You got to be comfortable in these tight games, comfortable where there might not be a lot generated either side, and then just wait for your opportunity. I think. But to answer your question, I think it stems from the belief in this group, the belief in your line mates, your teammates, going out there and knowing we can get the job done.
The Winnipeg Jets leader, Adam Lowry, on just their performances in these big games. One thing we do know, and Remis did a great job of outlining this earlier, this isn't going to be easy. The home team has won every game in their season series. Now, the Jets have had 2 great performances against Dallas in 4-1 wins in November and March. And it was at the start of December where the Jets went to Dallas, and Dallas broke a 1-1 tie in the third period and ended up getting an empty netter to win. Here's Lowry on the challenge tonight and the series history this season of the home team coming away with 2 points in all 3 previous meetings.
It doesn't really change a whole lot. Obviously, at home we got to dictate the matchups and things like that. But if you want to be an elite team in this league, you want to win and go far. You have to be able to win on the road, and it's a real tough rink to play in. They're a really good team at home. I think, like I said, it's about that patience in the game. Trusting that, our structure and our ability, be able to get the job done, not trying to force pucks. And, Dallas is a great transition team, and they can really hurt you. Their power play, struck for 3 last night, and, it's real evident when they get opportunities, they make the most of them. So, I think it's going into the game knowing that it's going to be a tight contest, knowing that, there might not be a lot of space, but just being comfortable in that and, just winning your matchups. Whoever you're out there on the ice against, whoever you line up head-to-head, that's what we talk about. If each line wins their matchups, we're put in a good spot.
One more from the captain. One thing I think everyone will agree with, that this is a group that seems to play for each other and is as good as a definition of the word team as we've seen in the 2.0 era. On the ice, off the ice, through good times, in hard ones as well, through adversity. And Lowry just talked about, the nature of this team and having everybody pulling on the rope the same way and on the same page.
Yeah, there's, I think, a comfort knowing that you can trust that your teammates are going to be in the right spot. It makes the reads easier. It makes kind of the breakouts. It makes the D-zone coverage or the neutral zone pressure, those reads easier. And I think, when you're making those reads, on the first instinct as opposed to kind of guessing where, a teammate's going, you play a lot faster. I think, when the puck's on your stick, you're looking at that first option. And, if you're just doing those simple, quick, easy reads, you play faster. I think it makes you harder to play against. So, I think that comes down to our coaching staff's done a really good job this year of, drilling in kind of the forecheck, the neutral zone, the D zone, going over that, talking about coverages, or if there's a previous game where there's missed coverages, the communication and things. So everyone's role on the ice are known and the expectations are clear. And, I think it shows in how detailed and how structured we are. And, I think that's one of the strengths of our team and what makes us so difficult to play against.
There's some great stuff from the captain earlier. And Reem, come on in here. Like I can't say enough about what Lowry has meant to this organization since he came here, but the transition for Lowry to captain, listen, Scott Arniel and the coaching staff have done an unbelievable job, but Lowry now with the C, along with Josh Morrissey and Mark Scheifele, I'm not sure, because the points maybe aren't there of the top captains in the league. But holy smokes, has he led this team in an impressive way. And I have no doubt with the chips on the line come playoff time and tonight, we're going to get the best out of number 17.
Yeah, playoff Lowry. Remember him crashing the front of the net, tying goal against Vegas. They ultimately lost that game in overtime. But he's come up with some big goals. He's hit a career high this season. And when it's the big games, that's the guy that you want down the middle going up against the other team's best. So the transition to Adam Lowry as captain has been pretty seamless. He's really stepped into the role, and I agree, he means a lot. Not the biggest point scorer, but he definitely means a lot in the locker room and in the community as well. So he's been a perfect representative for the Winnipeg Jets. And it is kind of funny, the Jets historically, team to see people in chat going back to the WHA days saying a lot of scar tissue, losing big games against the Oilers or whoever, but it doesn't seem to be as much this year as the Jets have stepped up time and time again in the biggest games of the year.
Well, listen, people need to get over it. I mean, like anything, you can't change what's in the past. Sitting around and dwelling on bad things that happened in the past is, to me, a losing proposition. And, to the Jets' credit, they owned it. They focused on it. And I suggest everyone check out the latest 32 Thoughts over at Sportsnet from Elliot Friedman. Remo, the Jets have never gotten more ink, I think, in one of these national columns than they did in Elliot's yesterday. And thanks for passing that over to me. And they talked so much about moving on from the disappointment of last year and the meetings in the offseason between Scott Arniel and Mark and Josh and Adam. And, they've continued to prove that they've moved on from it. Hopefully it's made them more prepared and better. And there's no way to argue that through 78 games going into this big one tonight against the Dallas Stars, this team has done exactly that. So it took a while for some people to move on. It was a bitter pill to swallow for, I think, all Jet fans in the city and obviously the players as well. But dwelling on the past doesn't help you at all. It's all about tonight, game 79, with an opportunity to all but clinch the Central Division in Dallas and then get ready for the whiteout next week.
Yeah, and I think for a team that has been so close the last couple of years, 2019 being in first for a while, but 2 years ago and last year, set records, but they haven't ever won the division, haven't won the conference in the regular season, haven't won a President's Trophy. How incredible would that be to not secure it tonight, but 99.9% chance you have to get 1 point in the remaining
it would help the stress
games.
Levels a lot of the fan base for sure.
I think it'd be a tremendous accomplishment. And again, there was so much talk at the end of last season. How can we make sure that a playoff performance like this doesn't happen again, where we win the first game and they get blown out in the next four? 2 years in a row, you lose 4-1. And especially last year, where you had the even better regular season, and Colorado made you look like absolutely nothing for 4 games there. And to their credit, they've done everything that they said they're going to do. And I might have even laughed when Dylan DeMello says we're going to come back 10% better. I'm like, well, how are you going to do that? Well, they figured out a way to come in and play Winnipeg Jets hockey for 82 games. And, be the best team in the NHL in the regular season. So
yeah, well, they're not done 82 yet. There still is 4 more, but they could all but make the last 3 just about a non-issue if they can win tonight. I see Isha Boy Bruce. I'm 10% better as a fan this season. I like that. Many of the fans, I think, have raised their level 10% or a little bit more. See everybody, Craig Smith, looking forward to tonight. Agreed. No negative vibes or energy this season. The team is dialed in. And then there's the Matt Hymans. Fool me once. Matt, you need to get over it, dude. Worrying about things in the past or focusing and dwelling on it. As I say, loser's game. It's about winning, moving forward, not making those same mistakes. And I think that's this team. Like, there's no guarantee of anything in the playoffs. You can get into hot goalie. The one thing I do know and I can guarantee is the team will play way better than they did in games 2 through 5 against the Avalanche, regardless of the result this year. I think we can all take that to the bank. And if they play like the brand of hockey they've done that's made them the number 1 team in the league all this year, even with the great teams in the West, the Dallases, the Colorados, LA, Edmonton, Vegas, we've seen them beat all of those teams this year with the exception of LA, and they'll be a tough out. Anyways, we'll worry about the playoffs and all that in a bit. Tonight, it's about locking down first place and doing something that no Jet team has done ever in the NHL, and that's win a division title, never mind a number 1 seed and potentially a President's Trophy.
I will say I found it very funny when we had Owen Newkirk on from DLLS Sports earlier in the show. Great conversation. We did get some compliments on chat on that. They enjoyed hearing his perspective. But we've been sitting here saying Dallas, they don't lose, and meanwhile the Dallas Stars are looking at the Jets and saying these guys don't lose either. As he said, Dallas had the best second half record, and the Jets were the second best or something, and Dallas barely gained any points on them because the Jets had this historic 15-1 start to the season, and it's like the Spider-Man meme. They're pointing at each other saying, you, like we don't lose. It's pretty, I don't know. It's kind of nice to get greased a little from your opponent there, Huss.
Hey, by the way, for sure, and it was right. I mean, I remember, we were saying the same things. Like when the Jets went on the 11 game in a row and we were sitting there looking, oh, it's great. For the first time ever, we've been able to pull up ESPN or whatever in the last 10-0-0. And then you'd look at Dallas and they're 8-1-1 and you've got 3 points on them after a perfect month. So nothing's easy in the Central, and it won't be easy tonight. But we all know what the stakes are. Hey, listen, before we get to our Masters update for Breezy Bend and the Coolbet lines, just while we're talking, I know we made a couple of WrestleMania references earlier in the program with Hammer. Would you agree, Remis, that there was somewhat of a WrestleMania or WWE vibe to the hype coming from the Premier yesterday at the at the press conference for the Whiteout?
When he went up to the stage and said the greatest moment in the history of the province of Manitoba was when Mark Chipman brought the Winnipeg Jets back to Winnipeg. Look, I'm not denying that it was a great moment, but I did feel a bit like he was putting on a show there. And he got me fired up for the Whiteout parties, the Premier, but it was kind of like, look, that's what you got to do, Huss. You got to hype it up, and they were doing a great job with the weather. I mean, I'm ready to run through a wall after this promo video the Jets sent us. Let me play this again. It was so good.
Yeah, throw this up. And just, I will say, though, in Wobber's defense, at Wobber, by the way, on Insta, he's not wrong. He is absolutely not wrong. I mean, I guess if you want to talk the history, what's the big? I guess the city's been saved by building the floodway. Maybe you could talk about that. But as far as something happening that has changed this city, or in some ways rejuvenated this city, or brought us back to where we were, the return of the Jets gets my vote. That's for sure. And yes, it did sound like it was WWE hyperbole, but I think the Premier was exactly right. All right, let's see what they've got cooking before we get to Augusta.
I'm trying to bring up this. My computer's froze. So I was trying to bring up this hype video. We played it during the Kevin Donnelly segment yesterday, where they have all the fans cheering, but my computer froze. So, is this it? Oh, here it is. Check this out.
All right, fire it up.
Oh wait, it froze.
Oh, great. Well,
at least we're still live, right?
As far as I know.
Hey, we're still here. People are watching. That's all that really matters.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, listen. Let's then move on to the Masters, and I know you will all appreciate it. I often bring out my green jacket for the Masters. For being a green jacket champion, not of Augusta National, but of the Mo Gosselin Invitational, one of my prized possessions. But I didn't think it would be appropriate on a day where the Jets are going into Dallas to take on the team in green, to be wearing a green jacket. So maybe there'll be an appearance of the green jacket tomorrow. But today it was off limits. In solidarity with our squad going down there trying to grab first place and lock it down in the Central. All right, let's get to our Breezy Bend golf report today. A couple of my favorite of the year, the Masters, of course. Breezy set to open in a couple weeks. hosting the Manitoba Open this year. Cannot wait to do shows out there for the biggest week in golf in the province every year. And I know how excited they are to show off the course, all the improvements and renovations they've done to the province. If you are thinking about a long-term golfing home for you and your family at one of Winnipeg's top private courses, give Breezy Bend a call. Ask for our pal Corey Johnson. He can get you on the waiting list there. You can also get more information over at breezybend.ca. Justin Rose is 6 under par right now. Reem, I said this, maybe it was on the Lock Shop. If Justin Rose finishes as the first round leader, I think it might legitimately bankrupt sports books. He was 60-1 to lead after the first round. He's done it 4 times. I don't know how many people cited this stat, not necessarily Justin Rose to win the tournament, but don't hesitate to throw a few bucks on him on Thursday. And well, guess what? There he is with a 2-shot lead right now. Still 2 par 5s left to play at 6 under par. Now, he's got that 2-shot lead on defending champion Scotty Scheffler, who's in the clubhouse at 4 under par, and Canadian Corey Connors, who birdied the 17th hole and the 18th hole to get in as the first player to card a 4 under par. Now, at 3 under par is Tyrrell Hatton, who's completed. But don't look now. Here comes Rory. Rory birdied 8 and 9. He makes the turn at 3 under par, approaching Amen corner. 2 under pars include Aaron Rai, Harris English, Jason Day, Matty Fitzpatrick, Hideki Matsuyama, former Green Jacket winner, Bryson DeChambeau, the Irish Bear, Shane Lowry, and then a group at ones. The ones include Cam Smith. How about Freddie Couples looking to make another cut? Freddie in at 1 under par today. Brian Harmon, who won last week. The bad guy, Patrick Reed. Former winner, Bubba Watson. My guy, the chef, Minwoo Lee, is in at 1 under par. Fargo's own Hollywood Hoagie. Tom Hoagie's at 1 under. Daniel Berger, Pat Cantlay, Wyndham Clark. And that's the ones. Even par. And geez, tough end for Colin Morikawa. Morikawa bogeyed 15, bogeyed 16, and bogeyed 18. He was tied for the lead. He ended up finishing at even par, just continuing the evens. A bunch of guys that are out on the course right now. Akshay Bhatia, Ludwig Oberg. Jordan Spieth ended up at 1 over par. Sergio Garcia is at 1 over par right now. And a tough start for my guy, Xander Schauffele. I was really hoping that Xander would come up with a great start to the tournament. Not so fast. He's just bogeyed 9 and 10. He's 2 over par right now. John Rahm, 2 over par. Fleetwood, Thigala. Then there's Mike Weir. He's in at 3 over par. One of the other Canadians. We're looking for Nick Taylor. Nick Taylor's 3 over par. And Taylor Pendrith finished at 5 over par. So we said it wasn't quite free money for Corey Connors to be the top Canadian over at Coolbet, but he's got a 7-shot lead right now early on, and all of the other Canadians will be pressed to make the cut. Masters continues. Great coverage on TSN in the morning that many of the Americans don't get. And I will tell you, if you are into the Masters, if you've got some pools or bets or whatever, the Masters app is not just the best sports app. It's probably the best app of apps, all of them. It is just simply incredible. You can watch every shot throughout the tournament, every hole, and so much other great content on it. So highly recommend you download the Masters app if you're a fan of the Masters, if you haven't already. We'll be all over it tomorrow afternoon as we get down to the cut. And Feinberg, of course, was on with us yesterday. After we're finished tomorrow, a little later on, if you want some good laughs, join Pat, Jeff, Tim for their Masters Cut Sweat show over on the Mayo Media Network. Let's get over to Coolbet. Busy night tonight in the National Hockey League. Of course, the Masters is on right now. They do have live betting right now throughout. And you can see that Rory with his start is 4-1. Scotty Scheffler's plus 240. Justin Rose. Now, if your guy had a bad start, now might not be a bad time to jump in if you think you can get back into it. Obviously, the end of round leaders, Justin Rose, who was 60-1, is now minus 278. If you think Rory can get there, plus 850. He's got the back 9 to go. He's 3 shots back. But tonight in the NHL, a very busy slate of games. Chicago, who the Jets are going to see on Saturday, are in Boston to take on the Bruins. Bruins minus 182 faves. The Blue Jackets minus 135 faves against the Buffalo Sabres. James Reimer with another shutout in his last start. He's going again for Buffalo. They can get to 500 tonight. And that includes a 13-game losing streak. What a weird season for Buffalo. Panthers minus 213 faves against the Red Wings. The Rangers, third straight loss last night, gave up a snowman to the Philadelphia Flyers. They're playing out the string now in New York against the Islanders. Islanders minus 123 faves. We got the Canucks and Avalanche tonight. Avs minus 208. You got Utah minus 189 faves against the Preds. The Kings, massive favorites over the Ducks, who had that big comeback win against the Flames last night. Minus 345 for LA, minus 270 for Vegas at home to the Kraken. And then the 2 games I'm most interested in tonight. First of all, Carolina, Washington. You all remember us talking about that crazy UFC takedown by Chatfield and the misconduct to Tom Wilson and everything that happened in that game between Carolina and Washington last week. Well, they're back at it tonight. This time in D.C., the Canes are a minus 154 favorite. We're trying to figure out why the line is what it is. It looks like Lindgren's starting for the Capitals. They've got most of their guys. I actually like Washington in this game, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of nonsense in it. So if you're into that sort of thing, you might want to tune in before the Jets and Stars. And then we get to Winnipeg and Dallas. Dallas, as you'd expect, is the favorite in this game tonight, but it's relatively close. Minus 125 for the Dallas Stars, plus 106 for the Jets. The total for the game is 5.5. The under has come in 7 straight games between Winnipeg and Dallas. Just some food for thought if you're maybe wanting to bet something other than who's going to win the game. Under 5.5 is minus 112. If we look at the goal scorers for the Winnipeg Jets, we've got Kyle Connor at plus 162, Mark Scheifele plus 195. Doesn't look they've got Ehlers listed, I guess, because he hasn't been playing. Cole Perfetti's been hot. He's at plus 315. And Josh Morrissey plus 620. I will probably put together a little WST parlay. Who do we like to score tonight, Remis?
I was going to say Ehlers, but he's not listed. So Mark Scheifele leads all the Jets players against Dallas. So I would go Scheifele or Kyle Connor. I think the big guns show up tonight, and it is them. But I think value, maybe Perfetti. He's been pretty good, and I always like line 2 on the road, but I know I'm kind of saying everyone here, but I think Scheifele or Connor, if you had to put a, make me choose one, I would pick one of those 2.
Lots of Stan will score. Stanley, wouldn't that be something? Stan,
is he on the list?
He's not on the list. I mean, we can get him added, and we can do whatever we want for an exclusive. I mean, if we want to put in maybe a Cole Perfetti point, and we could do an Ehlers goal. I think I like yours though, Remis.
I think you got to go with your big guns for this type of game. You're gonna ride your horses. I know the odds may not be as favorable, but this is a big game, and I'm picking a big players to score a big goal.
What is the Morrissey point number? Player points.
He's a bit down, minus 107, not
minus 107. Okay, I think this is going to be it. Jets to win.
Okay.
Scheifele goal, Morrissey point.
Mm-hmm. Like it.
I'll send that into Jake right now. We'll get that up shortly. It'll give us a nice little boost. It'll be in the Coolbet exclusives. We did stay away from the Jet game for our partner parlay, but we've got one up for tonight. As I say, love what Buffalo's doing right now. They're a home dog. They're a road dog. They're playing the Columbus Blue Jackets. James Reimer is absolutely on fire right now. He's back in it. We're going to take Buffalo. We're going to take the Caps in that game against the Hurricanes at home, plus 130. And the Rangers are done. We'll take the New York Islanders in that game. Big number tonight. From plus 795 boosted to plus 924. That is up in the combo cards. All the other hockey offerings, the points from the point. What's the super boost tonight? Plus 150 for a Hughes point and a Makar point in that Avalanche Canuck game.
It's a good deal.
I don't mind that. I'll probably jump on that at plus 150. But as I said, we'll drop in the exclusives, a Scheifele goal, a Morrissey point, and a Jets win. Imagine it'll probably be somewhere in the 6-7 to 1 number once it gets up. Well, fun show today, Remis, and I'm hoping for a really fun show tomorrow. I mean, regardless of what happens tonight, the Jets will be in very good position, but it sure would be nice to be talking about a 99.9% chance of being the 1 seed and being the Central Division champs, that they can get the job done tonight as we watch this great hype video from the Jets getting ready for what's to come next week.
Yeah, people are asking me. My computer froze when I tried to pull. This is the Whiteout Street Party hype video, and yeah, if this doesn't get you fired up for playoffs and what's to come, I don't know what will, but imagining the Jets as a 99.9% chance to win the Central, incredible. So it's been a long journey as this season. We're almost at the end of the playoffs, and it would be nice to have 2 games that don't really matter.
We're almost at the start of the playoffs. We're almost at the end of the regular season.
Sorry, end of the season. Yeah, end of the season. And it'd be nice to have 2 games that don't really matter at the end if you can get a point, assuming they get a point on Saturday against Chicago.
It would be very
tonight.
fun. It would be very fun to go into the building, particularly on Wednesday, the final game of the regular season, allowing a few guys, maybe a call-up or 2 to get in the lineup, to rest a few guys, to enjoy the free hot dogs and pop and all the stuff that they're giving away at Fan Appreciation Night. We had a couple super chats. We need to thank some people.
Yeah, Gordon with the super chat. He was the one who enjoyed the conversation with Owen Newkirk. He says, keep it up.
Thanks, Gordon.
And then Tico Napoli, he says, Ben Hatskin signing Bobby Hall in the OG Jets. Best moment in Manitoba history, only after Transcona amalgamated. Hashtag go Railers. Tico. Thank you, Tico.
The Bobby Hall was huge, but come on, getting the franchise back again. I stand with the Premier.
What about the floodway?
It was not WWE type hyperbole, although it sounded like it.
What about
he was right.
What about the creation of like the province or like trading or something? I'm sure there's other
that was
great
going to happen some way. That was going to happen either way at some point.
Yeah,
it doesn't compare. Founding a province does not compare to getting an NHL team back after you've lost it.
I guess the province was. I mean, the land was already here. I do enjoy what was like Chris Rock's line. I'm not going to do a Chris Rock impression. Was that what Christopher Columbus discovered like a backyard and put a flag down? Basically, was his line on Weekend Update like 30 plus years ago. So yeah, I mean, sure, they bringing back the Jets, that actually required some real effort than discovering some land that was already there, right?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I don't know if we need to get into the politics of the discovery of North America or the founding of the province. Just know that the playoffs are coming. There's nothing better than the whiteout in Winnipeg. And if the Jets can win tonight against the Dallas Stars, we can start planning for a wild card team to be coming to Winnipeg. It won't be official. It won't be guaranteed, but it will be all but wrapped up for the Winnipeg Jets if they can get this. But, I mean, listen, going into Dallas, not an easy place to win. You're playing the number 3 overall team in the league, one that just hasn't gone away as the Jets have been so good this year. So we'll see what happens. Regardless, we'll be here tomorrow on the program. Ken Weeb's going to join us. We'll look forward to having Weber on the program to break it all down. Craig Button's going to join us as well. By the way, shout out to Button for making the case for Connor Hellebuck for Hart last night on TSN. That's why he's our favorite. But we'll have a ton tomorrow coming out of tonight's Jets-Dallas game. And then getting ready for a very big, important weekend for the Jets as they, regardless of what happens, are going to need to do a little more, even with the win tonight. Blackhawks on the road Saturday, and then McDavid, who returned last night unexpectedly, and the Oilers coming in on Sunday. That is going to do it for us. Great stuff with Owen Newkirk in Dallas earlier today. Appreciate him jumping on. Of course, Jeff Hamilton, and a fun chat about the playoff-bound Sens with Brent Wallace as well. Huge thanks to all of our sponsors that make the show happen every day. Don't forget, at WSTers, I mean, we are 6-0 at games this year. We're 2-0 on the watch parties. If you're looking for a place to watch the game tonight, get over to Boston Pizza, Taylor with the IC boys, and bring some of that WST juju to the party and to the game tonight. That's going to do it for us. Great stuff from Michael Remis. Awesome chat today. Wherever you're watching tonight, enjoy the game and make sure to join us tomorrow. Heading into the weekend, the latest on the Jets, round 2 of the Masters. We'll have it all for you right here tomorrow on Winnipeg Sports Talk. We'll see you then.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.